Chapter 71 Reading a lot has its benefits. You know who I am? Elder Wu only swept a glance at the flame in Yang Chen's hand, but he hadn't paid much attention to Yang Chen's question. He was most interested in finding out how Yang Chen knew about him. He had never shown his face in front of this batch of disciples who had come to train at the Immortal Falling Well. Even when he had killed Peng Wei, he did that secretly, without showing his face to anyone. The top-grade blue-green zoysia is the main ingredient for the heaven-seizing pill. The only person here who would have a use for it would be you, Elder Wu. Only, Yang Chen wasn't very nervous as he slowly explained the reasons for his judgment. Your knowledge and experience are out of the ordinary. Elder Wu faintly nodded and praised him. But he was still quite baffled. A mere Kai-layer youngster surprisingly knew the ingredients of the heaven-seizing pill. This was unimaginable. This untalented youngster has already committed the entire hidden pavilion of the Nine Earth Manor of the Pure Yang Palace to memory. Yang Chen's words removed most of the doubts in Elder Wu's heart. A youngster who had already learnt everything in a hidden pavilion, for him to know about the blue-green zoysia and heaven-seizing pill was not something unimaginable. But even though Yang Chen's fire-controlling arts were extraordinary and he had also absorbed the most suitable flame for concocting, the geocentric flame, Elder Wu still wasn't even the least bit assured. He took out a piece of blue-green zoysia and indicated Yang Chen to refine it on the spot. Yang Chen was still calm and composed. When the zoysia was still in the air, it was immediately engulfed by the flame, as if there were threads within the flame. The zoysia was slowly pulled towards himself and was placed into his hands. The dark red flame and the zoysia surroundings began to touch it, and soon a variation appeared in the zoysia. The originally solid zoysia slowly began to change into dough, and immediately afterwards, it turned into a liquid. Under Yang Chen's manipulation of the flame, it kept on changing shapes incessantly. In one moment it turned into the shape of an ornament, then after another moment it transformed into a green pill cauldron. The strangest thing was that the zoysia had maintained its blue-green color from the beginning without even the slightest change. But all of this didn't count for anything. Yang Chen clearly remembered that Elder Wu's request was to purify and refine it. Although refining wasn't a problem, but the purification step was still left. Under the burning of the geocentric flame, little by little, slight traces of multicolored impurities began to flow out of the green-colored fluid, and within a flash, they were led somewhere else by the fast-flowing fire. These multicolored impurities slowly became less and less when a white-colored juice began to seep out. Yang Chen knew that this was some different zoysia mixed in with the blue-green zoysia, which was still regarded as an impurity. After a long moment, the impurities stopped seeping out of the green-colored juice, and Yang Chen controlled his flame, turning it into a circular flame cup, which he used to hold the green-colored liquid, and placed it in front of Elder Wu. The green-colored liquid within the flame seemed like a piece of transparent fluid, but the green color was a pleasure to look at. Even though it was liquid, its viscosity was still not increased even a little bit by the heat. Elder Wu lightly reached out his hand and put it into the liquid. The portion he touched immediately condensed at his fingertip and left the fire cup within Yang Chen's hand when he retrieved his finger. Yang Chen put away the flame cup and calmly waited for Elder Wu's judgment. Elder Wu held his finger directly in front of his eyes and his spiritual awareness directly penetrated the zoysia. The whole lump was bluish-green in color, almost without any impurity, plump and alluring. One could see through it from one end to the other, it was completely transparent and the bluish-green color was well distributed within it. Holding it in his hand, it immediately gave off a gentle sensation. Compared to the time when it was given to Yang Chen, the nature of the zoysia had become better by at least 10 times. You're the first person at the Kai layer I know to have accomplished this bare-handed. Elder Wu was not stingy when praising Yang Chen. The person before his eyes had the best pill-concocting talent among all of the people he had met, yet he was only at the Kai layer and still able to accomplish a feat which not even Zhedan expert could accomplish, especially his control over fire. It was simply in the realm of perfection. If it were not for his cultivation limiting him, even Elder Wu would not be his match. Elder Wu should not patronize me. Yang Chen displayed a kind of self-deprecating elegance. Looking at Elder Wu's eyes, he sighed deeply again. I want to refine the heaven-seizing pill, for which I require the help of other high-level pill-concocting masters. Younger brother, are you interested? Elder Wu had already inspected Yang Chen's pill-concocting skills and immediately invited him. This is exactly what I want. Yang Chen agreed with a smile stretched across his entire face. To be invited by a defying stage expert to work together, leaving aside the benefits he could gain later, just to be able to learn about the heaven-seizing pill's refining process, was already a chance which one could only get by luck. If he didn't grab this opportunity, wouldn't he be a fool? In addition to that, Yang Chen wanted to establish himself as a high-level pill-concocting master. If he used this matter with Elder Wu, that would establish it as an unshakable fact which nobody would dare to doubt. Even a Dacheng stage expert was asking Yang Chen for help, wouldn't that clearly illustrate his point? The refining of the heaven-seizing pill was similar to the Yang Kai pill, it only required to mix the ingredients and fuse them together to be refined. That was what the name heaven-seizing referred to. If genuinely refined, the difference was not much compared to a first-rate magic weapon. It definitely did not require many high-level ingredients, but the refining process was divided into many stages, every stage was 1,000 or 10,000 times more complex than refining the foundation stage pill. This could said to be the highest grade pill within the mortal world, even with the experience of Yang Chen's previous life as a Principle Golden Immortal, he had never taken part in the process. He hadn't even seen the refining of a heaven-seizing pill. It could be said that, as long as he was able to successfully refine the heaven-seizing pill, he could be compared to a fourth-grade pill concocting master. When Yang Chen and Elder Wu walked out of Yang Chen's room, it immediately gave rise to an uproar. Yang Chen hadn't left his room for a long time already, when people required pills to be concocted, they would have to come to him and ask him for a favor. This kind of situation, where he would depart after completing a person's request hadn't happened before. Because nobody had seen Elder Wu's face before, they were all looking at him in alert. It seemed as if, as long as Yang Chen suggested it, they would immediately clash with him. Elder Wu hardly paid any attention to it, he raised his hand, and immediately Yang Chen was encased in a bright light, and within a flash these two people flew out of Lilu village, without leaving any tracks. But the group of people left behind at the Lilu village didn't know what happened. Looking at the bright light fading away, they looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. What happened just a moment ago? How could the great master be seized by someone? What's the matter? Following the guesses, finally an expert who was on duty here said in a matchlessly jealous tone. The person just a moment ago was Elder Wu of the Council of Five Elders, he has taken Great Master Yang away. When the group of concerned people heard his words, nobody had any doubts, everyone began to make guesses, one after another. Why had Elder Wu taken Yang Chen away? It seemed that Elder Wu did not want to create problems for Yang Chen, so it could be assumed that he would not harm Yang Chen. Moreover, if he really wanted to punish Yang Chen for something, he only had to make a slight effort, equivalent to raising his finger, so why would he go through the trouble and appear himself? Since Yang Chen was not in trouble, then there could only be two possibilities. One was that he wanted to cultivate Yang Chen, and the other was that he wanted something from Yang Chen. No matter what he wanted to do, it would not be a bad thing for Yang Chen. Everyone immediately realized why that expert had used this kind of envious tone when he explained it to them. They also began to be jealous within their hearts. If Elder Wu regarded them as important, was there any benefit that they wouldn't get? No matter what was said, those people who had the desire to fawn over Yang Chen and get close to him were the happiest this moment. After this meeting with Elder Wu, Yang Chen's market price would instantly touch the heavens. They thought that they had already made good karma by forming a bond with Yang Chen, so they were all delighted. The closer they were to Yang Chen, the more benefits they would obtain. But at this moment, Yang Chen wasn't concerned about this, he was totally excited to take part in the refining of a heaven-seizing pill. Even if he was a Golden Principle Immortal before rebirth, he would still be extremely interested in this heaven-defying pill. Not to mention that he would form a good relationship with Elder Wu, who could be considered as a strong expert even in the spiritual world. By comparison, the speed at which Elder Wu was flying with him on a magic treasure was not something that would amaze him. Yang Chen had also sensed that they were no longer within the Immortal Falling Well, instead they were already flying above the ground, out of the Immortal Falling Well spell formation. Otherwise, at this kind of speed, it would surely give rise to many attacks of underground spirit beasts if it was within the Immortal Falling Well. When looking at the scenery on the ground, Yang Chen's body slightly shook and he looked at Elder Wu with suspicion and asked him. Elder Wu, we are already out of the Immortal Falling Well, could it be? I have already begun to refine the heaven-seizing pill for the past few years. Elder Wu was naturally aware of what Yang Chen meant to say when he last spoke. He was extremely appreciative of Yang Chen's quick-wittedness. Between these two people there was no need for any secrecy, since Elder Wu was refining the heaven-seizing pill, he naturally wanted to ascend to the spiritual world. Yang Chen was shocked at this, Elder Wu had a pact with the leaders of every sect. He would not leave the Immortal Falling Well if his ascension was not imminent, his leaving already explained everything clearly. Although Yang Chen was not all that amazed by the flying speed of Elder Wu's magic treasure, this flying-type magic treasure could make normal people gasp in admiration. Within a few hours they had already traveled a distance which would take Yang Chen at least 2 months. While flying at rapid speed, Yang Chen no longer felt like measuring the distance, so he slowly began to think about himself flying this magic treasure. This magic treasure was a shuttle-shaped boat and Yang Chen was sitting on the hull together with Elder Wu, but unfortunately the hull was not very big. With two people sitting there, almost no space was left. At most they could fit a small desk with some tea, but that was the limit. This is the heavenly fleeing shuttle refined by this old man. To gain more speed I had to sacrifice some space. As if he could see Yang Chen's lament about the space, Elder Wu explained it, but self-satisfaction was clearly visible on his face. This heavenly fleeing shuttle was Elder Wu's emergency treasure, one which he was immensely proud of. Moreover, this magic treasure was quite well known within the cultivation world. Almost all cultivators would have expressions of jealousy and astonishment on their faces once they heard its name, so he thought that Yang Chen would not be an exception. Elder Wu was astonished that his guess was so far from reality. Yang Chen sized up the magic treasure once and afterward, he slightly nodded and responded. How pitiful. In his previous life, Yang Chen had seen all kinds of flying magic treasures. This heavenly fleeing shuttle was only lower grade trash in Yang Chen's eyes. His assessment was already giving face to Elder Wu's abilities. Elder Wu was astonished at Yang Chen's reply. If Yang Chen had really never heard the great name of the heavenly fleeing shuttle, then it was unfortunate for Yang Chen. How could a mere Kai-layer youngster like Yang Chen comprehend something like a high-grade magic treasure? Elder Wu was not an ordinary cultivator, so he would surely not use the mentality of an ordinary person to judge this assessment. Although Yang Chen's cultivation was low, he knew about the heaven-seizing pill, moreover his control over fire was at a simply divine level. Even though he knew many fire-attributed cultivators, among those he could not find anyone who would dare put aside their cultivation and compete against Yang Chen's fire control. Since he had such a great skill in pill concocting, then surely his assessment for the heavenly fleeing shuttle would not just be random drivel. How can you say that? Elder Wu asked with a tone of seeking a guidance, without even the slightest trace of mockery for Yang Chen's young age and low cultivation. Elder Wu's attitude raised Yang Chen's admiration for him. He had seen a lot of people who insult ones who were weaker because of their own high strength, but seeing Elder Wu's bearing just now had really caught him off guard. In his previous life, Yang Chen never had the opportunity to make contact with Elder Wu, so he did not know what kind of person he was. The defying stage expert who might immediately ascend to the spiritual world had not only shown courtesy towards a Kai-layer expert, asked for his opinion without caring for his face. When you refine this magic treasure again, use the immortal passage refining technique to fuse this magic treasure with the immortal passage. Yang Chen did not have any sentimental attachment to the idea, so he calmly explained what he knew. Although it will require a little bit of skill, in the end it will be much more comfortable. It also doesn't need to be carried as eye-grabbingly as a Qiankan pouch. This is not the highest grade of magic treasures. This method was commonly used in the spiritual world, but nobody wanted to do this in the mortal world. Elder Wu would soon know about this after ascending, but in the mortal world, very few people would want to spend the ingredients and magic power just to improve a flying magic treasure. A lot of people would think of this as a waste. Like a person woken up from a dream, Elder Wu suddenly felt enlightened. In the past, if he ran into any kind of difficulty on this magic weapon, he would immediately escape, so he could not help but praise him loudly. That's right. Such a simple thing, why didn't I think of this earlier? After he finished his praise, his gaze immediately moved to Yang Chen's face. With a smile he asked in suspicion. Are you really a Kai-layer cultivator? This youngster has only read a few books. Yang Chen smilingly replied. In any case, he had already told him that he had learned everything in the hidden pavilion, so this idea was also not something unimaginable. Elder Wu nodded but didn't say anything, but in his mind, he had already formed a plan. During the refining of the dual heavenly pill, he would spend as much time as possible with Yang Chen, and he had to learn about all of the knowledge Yang Chen had learned by reading. Currently his cultivation did not have any bottleneck, what he required was some time and a sudden insight. Previously he had only looked into things pertaining to cultivation, but apparently that wasn't enough. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 72 Seizing his geocentric flame would be more convenient. Elder Wu didn't raise this topic again, instead he took out a pot of strong tea, 2 teacups, and poured one for himself and one for Yang Chen, and put it back afterwards. The tea within the teapot produced a dark green color, which was similar to the blue-green zoysia Yang Chen had refined. The teacup was also not something simple, it similarly had a fresh appearance and green color, which could make people drool. Together with the dark green tea, it perfectly resembled a precious treasure. This is something this old man prefers when he is free, young friend, experience my self-made jadii tea. Elder Wu made a signal with his hand. If other people saw this, they would immediately faint from shock. This was Elder Wu of the Council of the Five Elders, who was not even modest when he was in front of a sex leader. But as if Yang Chen was not even a little bit disturbed about what this implied. After thanking him courteously, he clasped the dark green cup with his hands. For a majority of the time, Elder Wu stayed at the Immortal Falling Well, so he had no time to come out above the ground to search for things, therefore, he made this jadii tea from the tender leaves of the green jade bamboo, which had a totally different flavor from an ordinary tea plant. This was also the trick for which Elder Wu felt the most satisfaction, but he had always tasted it alone and had shared it with very few people. This was his first time pouring a cup for someone. The more one was obsessed with something, the more one would desire that people appreciate one's work, but Elder Wu had been at the Immortal Falling Well, so he had met with very few people like Yang Chen, who could talk to him with confidence. When other people met with Elder Wu, they were just like moles in front of him, trembling with fear. Where could he find someone as unrestrained as Yang Chen, who could treat a Dacheng stage cultivator as an ordinary friend? But Elder Wu admired him for this. In Yang Chen's eyes, there wasn't the slightest bit of regret for his assessment of the heaven-fleeing shuttle. The method to improve it, which Yang Chen told him, made Elder Wu's admiration for Yang Chen grow even more. Although the method was not very complex, people rarely think like this, so this was very commendable. Currently Yang Chen was calmly sitting with the jadii tea in his hands, but Elder Wu was nervously looking at Yang Chen, waiting for his assessment. This kind of feeling of looking forward to something hadn't appeared in him for a long time. This time, he was prompted by a sudden impulse to look for Yang Chen and invite him, but that had turned out to be the correct decision. Originally Elder Wu had just wanted to settle the affairs of the Immortal Falling Pool before leaving, but he hadn't expected the sudden appearance of that killing intent. He looked everywhere, but still couldn't find the source of that killing intent. Soon after that he had searched most of the Immortal Falling Pond and had barely returned back when he discovered that someone had broken his rule of killing another. His anger was immediately vented on Peng Wei, who was out of luck that day and was killed by Elder Wu. Soon after that he heard about Yang Chen being a pill concocting master while he was in the middle of his preparations for refining the heaven-seizing pill. To refine and purify the blue-green zoysia to the best quality, he required the help of an expert. He knew a few people, but they didn't have a suitable flame. Thinking about giving it a try, he looked for Yang Chen, but he hadn't expected that Yang Chen would turn out to give him a great surprise. Immediately afterwards, his assessment of the heaven-fleeing shuttle made Elder Wu gain a whole new level of respect for him. At that moment Elder Wu was once again waiting nervously for Yang Chen's evaluation of his self-made jadii tea. Yang Chen had the jade cup within his hands but hadn't started drinking the tea, instead he first brought the cup in front of him and lightly smelled it. This jadii tea was very strong, the smell was also quite dense, but the thick smell of bamboo leaves could make people's hearts carefree and relaxed. With just this one sniff, Yang Chen could smell a portion of spirit power being breathed in. It gave a very comfortable feeling, as if his body had been soaked within refreshing water. Looking at Yang Chen's facial expression while quietly smelling the tea with closed eyes, Elder Wu was becoming more and more expectant. Yang Chen's behavior had already completely exceeded a normal Kai-layer disciple. Elder Wu was becoming more and more anxious with each passing second, wanting to know Yang Chen's evaluation of his jadii tea. Compared to the pleasures Yang Chen had enjoyed in the heavenly court, this jadii tea possessed its own unique kind of fragrance, which forced people to take a sip. Only after smelling it for some time did Yang Chen bring the cup to his mouth and took a sip. Immediately, a portion of mixed-up bamboo fragrance and simultaneously a kind of sensation that penetrated his spirit filled his mouth, and after his mouth, it reached to the bottom of his heart. An enormous amount of spirit power was released from the tea leaves, it swept away until the bottom of his heart, the beautiful taste not stopping for a long time. But at this moment Yang Chen was completely incapable of sampling this tea. The huge amount of spirit power it released made Yang Chen have no choice but to use the reverse yin and yang 5 phases secrets to the greatest extent in order to refine and absorb this portion of spirit power. The frightening amount of spirit power was even more abundant than the 1-year matured profound yang fruit spirit power. Yang Chen's face immediately turned red, looking into the eyes of Elder Wu, he suddenly responded. His jadii tea was made up of the tender leaves of jade bamboo, so how could a Kai-layer disciple like Yang Chen bear the accumulated spirit power? Elder Wu was just about to help him when Yang Chen's complexion slowly recovered. Soon after that he suddenly exclaimed with his voice full of infatuation. The tea. Following which, he again took another mouthful while his face turned red and recovered again. At this moment, Elder Wu was at a loss about how to deal this Kai-layer youngster. Although his praise made Elder Wu very happy, Yang Chen's behavior had clearly surpassed that of an ordinary Kai-layer disciple, making Elder Wu unable to judge him clearly. That youngster before his eyes, was he really at the Kai-layer? He was very much unlike a frog in a well, this thought flashed within Elder Wu's mind, and he suddenly had a premonition, apparently inviting Yang Chen to participate in refining the heaven-seizing pill might give him a pleasant surprise. Following which, the thoughts of these two people began to revolve around the tea. Yang Chen was enticed by the uniquely refined teapot and wanted one himself. he started to have an intense desire for a tool for making wine. The countless thousand-year matured precious ingredients in the medicine garden, together with the unique secret recipes about making wine that he knew, along with his own experience of thousands or tens of thousands of years of winemaking, what kind of smell would it produce? The fine jade wine made within the heavenly court, he probably couldn't even come close to it. Elder Wu was completely unaware that his teapot had given rise to many thoughts in Yang Chen's head. In any case, the more he talked about the tea with Yang Chen, the more they hit it off. Yang Chen's plentiful knowledge and that unique perspective about its taste often made Elder Wu's eyes shine brightly. Even if Yang Chen hadn't any knowledge about pill concocting, Elder Wu still wished to sit together with Yang Chen and converse. Even he felt fortunate to find such a young friend who did not mind his seniority and cultivation. The conversation between them continued until they reached their destination. But both of them felt unsatisfied and still wanted to talk some more. This was the location personally chosen by Elder Wu for refining the heaven-seizing pill. Because they had been flying on the heaven-fleeing shuttle for the whole journey, Yang Chen did not know how much time had passed or how far they had traveled. But Yang Chen was very sure about one thing, Elder Wu would definitely not allow any person or matter to trouble him while he was refining the heaven-seizing pill. There were several tens of restriction spells on this place, even if it was Elder Wu himself, controlling the heavenly fleeing shuttle and incessantly attacking the spell formations one by one, he would still have to spend at least 1 hour to be able to enter. But this tight defense was still only one small gear in a big machine. This was not out of Yang Chen's expectations, the heaven-seizing pill, a pill that dared to be called as heaven-seizing, was already the pinnacle pill in defiance against the heavens. If Elder Wu handled this matter lightly, then he would be playing with his life. After the heavenly fleeing shuttle landed on the ground, Elder Wu asked Yang Chen to come out, then he collected the heavenly flying shuttle and put forth a spell formation. Soon afterwards, a road suddenly appeared within the dense jungle in front of them. Elder Wu took the lead and Yang Chen followed close behind, entering the jungle. Behind the jungle was a valley, neither big nor small, the spirit power within the valley was plentiful. Once they came in, Yang Chen saw an exceptionally refined villa. At the gate of the villa, more than 10 foundation stage servants were neatly lined up, forming a row. All of them had the same attire and seeing Elder Wu, they immediately paid their respects to him. Elder Wu made a casual gesture with his hand to command them, pointing towards Yang Chen. My young friend Yang Chen is someone whom I have personally invited. You all must not show even a little bit of carelessness. After he finished instructing them, he immediately entered the villa, bringing Yang Chen along with him. The inside of the manor was still lavish and exquisite, just the region, as far as Yang Chen's eyes could see, had at least 3 1,000-years-old trees, swaying gently. As for the materials used to make the villa, everywhere Yang Chen's eyes could look, he would not even regret to dismantle the roofs, walls and ground, as they could be used to refine a magic treasure. The net worth this Da Cheng stage expert had accumulated for several hundred or thousand years was at least 2 times that of Yang Chen when he was hiding and running. Elder Wu had paid particular attention to efficiency. After returning to the manor, he directly led Yang Chen to the location where the heaven-seizing pill was being refined. Here, Yang Chen saw a few guests of Elder Wu. It was as expected. Elder Wu was not at all famous for pill concocting, therefore, in order to refine the heaven-seizing pill, he would surely require the help of high-grade pill concocting masters. Yang Chen saw that there were at least 3 Yuning stage pill concocting masters. Peng Zhu, Deng Yi, He Lianyun, 3 people, all of them famous pill concocting masters. In Yang Chen's previous life, these people had very well-known reputations. When Yang Chen was a youngster, the worst of these 3 people was already at the 3rd grade, while the best, Deng Yi, a female, was already a 4th grade pill concocting master. Hearing that Yang Chen was also a pill concocting master, a trace of doubt and contempt appeared within the gazes of the 3 pill concocting masters. A Kai-layer pill concocting master, even if his level of achievement was high, how high could it possibly be? Yang Chen has the geocentric flame, most suitable for refining blue-green zoysia. Regardless of whether it was Elder Wu or Yang Chen, both hadn't expected the disdain these 3 pill concocting experts showed. The heaven-seizing pill was not something a Kai-layer youngster could participate in. The only reason why Yang Chen was capable of participating was because he possessed the geocentric flame and his control over fire was absolutely outstanding, making him competent enough for the assignment of purifying the blue-green zoysia. On top of that, Elder Wu hadn't overrated Yang Chen, which made these 3 people feel some dissatisfaction. At the same time, he hadn't degraded his value, merely declared the reasons why Yang Chen should be allowed to participate. These reasons could be considered to be acceptable to these 3 pill concocting experts. Although each of them was a fire-attributed cultivator and possessed a flame, they didn't have the geocentric flame. Humph. Lianyun snorted but didn't say anything, but he didn't conceal that trace of loathing towards Yang Chen within his eyes. This kind of opportunity to become famous under the heavens by refining a heaven-seizing pill was given to a youngster. This was simply an inconvenience to them. Lianyun could not believe that Yang Chen was integral. Only do what you are supposed to do, by all means do not try to participate in anything else. With regards to words, Deng Yi was very cautious and warned many times. This mistake will be Elder Wu's problem, you should certainly not blame us. Only her words were meant to be a reminder and didn't have a warning tone. As for Zhu Peng, he didn't say anything, only coldly glanced at Yang Chen and then did not pay any more attention to him, sitting down to recuperate. The attitudes of these three people were totally different, but Elder Wu didn't even show slightest change in expression. To refine the heaven-seizing pill, these three were the most important people he needed, so he could absolutely not develop any hostility with these people for a Kai-layer disciple like Yang Chen. When he had brought Yang Chen along, his only aim was to increase the chances of success at first. Even if his view toward Yang Chen had changed later, he would not change his priority for Yang Chen. Towards the contempt of those three pill-concocting experts, Yang Chen acted as if nothing had happened. He sat down on the seat arranged for him by Elder Wu and began to examine the one person who was not a pill-concocting master. Fan Shan, beast-taming sect. Seeing that Yang Chen was observing him, an unfriendly expression spread across the face of the remaining person, but he declared his identity regardless. Yang Chen knew clearly that the refining of a heaven-seizing pill required the spirit of a formidable demonic beast to act as the pill spirit. Fan Shan was precisely the expert who provided assistance in this area. He nodded slightly towards Fan Shan, and soon after that, Yang Chen stood up to show the proper etiquette of a youngster towards his seniors. This youngster is referred to as Pure Yang Palace's Yang Chen. This ceremony eased up the complexion of a few people, but the rest didn't say anything. Deng Yi opened her mouth again and just said N and nothing more. These four majestic Yuaning experts had surprisingly degenerated enough to concoct pills, together with a Kai-layer youngster. If it were not for Elder Wu's face, they would have already kicked him out of this villa. According to recipe, everything has been completely prepared. Everyone take a look and tell me if you require anything more. Elder Wu asked everyone in the meeting. His complexion had turned solemn. This matter concerned his ascension, so he could not have even the slightest error happening. There's nothing else required, but this Yang Chen, will he do? This is a major matter concerning the ascension of Elder Wu. If he makes even a small mistake, then even if he was killed 100 times, he would still not be able to repay the debt. Lianyun once again opened his mouth, speaking out against Yang Chen. As far as I know, the Pure Yang Palace is not a sect famous for pill concoction. This Kai-layer disciple has merely acquired the geocentric flame by luck. Instead of him, I'd rather take one of my apprentices or a third-grade pill concocting master at the peak of the Jidan stage. Seizing his geocentric flame would be more convenient. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 73 Gambling A Flame for A Flame. In addition to the three high-level experts in this place, there was one person from the beast-taming sect, Elder Wu and Yang Chen, altogether 6 people. After Lianyun said those words regarding eliminating Yang Chen, nobody said anything. Though these people each treated Yang Chen differently, but all of them had one thing in common, that was that they had all shown contempt for him. The refining of a heaven-seizing pill was that something even a trifling Kai-layer cultivator could participate in. Did he even deserve that chance? To seize a flame from the body of someone was not impossible. Naturally, the precondition was that the flame should be suitable with the person. It was not possible for dead people to possess a flame, so extracting it by force was also not possible. The only possibility was that the host would be willing to offer it. But among the people present, the lowest cultivation was the Yuning initial stage. Would a Kai-layer youngster even have the power to resist? The 3 people did not conceal their desire to attack Yang Chen. Greed filled everyone's eyes. Although they did not need the flame for themselves, who didn't have a few disciples in their sect. All of them wanted to obtain this flame for their younger generation. Most of all, this geocentric flame was the most suitable flame for pill concocting. It could only be encountered by luck and not by searching. If it were not that they already possessed even higher leveled flames, they would be ready to directly obtain it from Yang Chen's body for themselves. Elder Wu now regretted bringing Yang Chen here. What he thought was that Yang Chen would be able to refine and purify the blue-green zoysia to the best quality, but he hadn't expected the compatibility problems with these people, and he furthermore also hadn't expected that Lianyun would propose such a ruthless plan. But Elder Wu was not willing to offend these 3 pill concocting masters. They were the most top-notch pill concocting masters in this mortal realm. He could not get the heaven-seizing pill refined for himself without the help of these 3. But he was also extremely unwilling to sacrifice Yang Chen. After all, he was the one who had brought him here. If he was killed by these people, then what about his face? A difficult problem had presented itself to Elder Wu. On one side was the heaven-seizing pill, on the other side was Yang Chen. Although among these three people, only He Lianyan had proposed this, the thoughts of everyone else were already stirred by He Lianyan. If he did not appease these three properly, then there would not be a heaven-seizing pill, but if he sacrificed Yang Chen, what about his face? He did not know what to do next. Elder Wu's hesitation, naturally everyone could see it with their eyes, Yang Chen was also no exception. Yang Chen was already very grateful when he saw Elder Wu hesitating, after all his words were still the words of a Kai-layer youngster. If a Kai-layer youngster and three pill concocting masters were hostile with each other, anyone who had a brain would not even raise an eyelid. But Yang Chen was not someone who would resign himself to death silently, since He Lianyan had malicious thoughts towards him, Yang Chen also would not mind destroying his face to open his eyes. You're speaking as if you had already refined the heaven-seizing pill. Or are you saying that, as long as I hand over the geocentric flame Senior he would have certainty and success? Senior is a guest personally invited by Elder Wu, but so am I. If right now a defying stage pill concocting expert appeared, would Senior he also hand over his flame? Once he opened his mouth, Yang Chen's words made the group of people slightly surprised. Moreover, is this Elder Wu's villa or Senior he's villa? Yang Chen asked with a smile, while attentively watching He Lianyan. Or do you mean that Senior he could substitute Elder Wu for making decisions and managing things here? By the time Yang Chen had finished, He Lianyan's complexion had already turned unsightly. It was not wrong that Elder Wu had invited him, but this villa was not his territory. He had directly tried to call shots in Elder Wu's territory and even wanted to punish a guest invited by Elder Wu. This was already far from the way a guest should act, instead it was like he had become the master himself. Elder Wu was also reminded by Yang Chen that this was his territory, the guests were invited by him, so who would dare to be rude in this way? They hadn't even refined the heaven-seizing pill yet but already began to raise internal strife here. The most important thing was that this way of handling the situation was not beneficial for Elder Wu's face. When he thought of this, Elder Wu's complexion sank. When all was said and done, Yang Chen was a guest, personally invited by Elder Wu, similar to these three. Even though their cultivation was different, in here their status was the same. Since all of them were visitors, if the voice of a guest overwhelmed that of the host, it was a shameful guest. Although Zhu Peng's and Deng Yi's thoughts were somewhat provoked by He Lianyan's words, at this moment they didn't have the same contempt for Yang Chen as before. A Kai-layer youngster could speak with confidence in front of four Yuaning and a defying stage expert, this could only be called extremely daring. They could not help but see Yang Chen in a new light. You. He Lianyan was shocked in his heart, but after one ruthless glare towards Yang Chen, he immediately turned towards Elder Wu and hurriedly said. Elder Wu, this junior did not mean it like that. Pill concocting masters were generally considered superior to cultivators. There wasn't a person who would like to offend a pill concocting master with some potential, not to mention He Lianyan whose name had already shook the whole world. But Yang Chen's words were also correct, the heaven-seizing pill hadn't yet been successfully refined, and the success rate of the heaven-seizing pill was not very good. That was the only reason why these three pill concocting experts had gathered here to discuss things. Historically, once the heaven-seizing pill was refined, it was a life-changing, refining success for a pill concocting master. After refining the heaven-seizing pill, the pill concocting master would directly ascend, leaving behind only some incomplete records of the ingredients, thus the refining method still required everyone to gather and ponder over it. If he really had certainty, then Elder Wu would have done anything that He Lianyan wanted, but the problem here was that He Lianyan did not dare to vouch for the success, therefore he did not have the confidence to be commanding in front of Elder Wu. Confronted with those words of Yang Chen, he had no other option than to give an explanation. Young friend Yang Chen is a guest, personally invited by this old man, before you say anything, think before you speak. Elder Wu was furious on the inside, but he also knew that he could not offend He Lianyan and these other pill concocting masters right now, so he could only say something like this. He Lianyan did not dare to say anything and only nodded, then he stood silently at his place. A trace of anger had already been incited in Elder Wu's heart due to Yang Chen's words, even if he was a high-level pill concocting master, why would a defying stage expert, who was one step away from ascending, care about him? Later they would have plenty of chances to put Yang Chen in order, then why were they creating trouble for him at this critical moment? Suddenly, Yang Chen said. However, Senior his words still make sense. Which shocked He Lianyan. Hearing Yang Chen approve of his proposal, he could not help but wrinkle his brows, not knowing what Yang Chen wanted to do. Since seniors do not feel assured about this youngster offers to show a small trick for controlling fire to reassure everyone. Yang Chen kept on looking at those pill concocting master with a smile and continued. If Senior he is also able to accomplish this, then myself will submit the geocentric flame, what do you say? The gazes of those people were fixed on Yang Chen's face. Could it be that this youngster was an idiot? He had humbled He Lianyan just a moment ago, and now he surprisingly said this kind of thing. A scowl immediately appeared on He Lianyan's face, a Kai-layer youngster who had obtained the geocentric flame by some luck, who did not know how high the sky and how deep the earth is, still wanted to challenge the power and prestige of a Yuning expert. Did he really not know how to spell to die? Furthermore, he thought the minor accomplishments which a Kai-layer youngster like him could achieve would be incapable to be surpassed by a Yuning stage expert. Since you yourself are courting death, then I have to accept it. Elder Wu, you can see how arrogant this youngster is, so I request Elder Wu to be the judge. He Lianyan said with an Shen expression, but his vision was towards Elder Wu. Just a moment ago, Yang Chen had used Elder Wu to ruthlessly sweep all his face and had surprisingly provoked him. He was a Yuning stage expert, not someone who would continue to lose face in front of Kai-layer youngster. Yang Chen, refining the heaven-seizing pill is important. Elder Wu could not help but wrinkle his brows, so he couldn't help but remind Yang Chen in an extremely serious tone. Youngster needs to stop before going too far. Elder Wu, refining the heaven-seizing pill, would require everyone's sincere cooperation to work as one. The most important thing is that people should be used to the greatest extent. If these seniors did not know what this youngster was capable of, then they wouldn't be able to assign tasks to this youngster, any tasks which would make full use of me. So myself just wants to let these seniors know my abilities, that's all. This kind of insistence could not be blocked by Elder Wu. Moreover, Yang Chen had even provided proper reasons for his actions that made it all the more difficult to stop him. He had already made these three pill-concocting experts unhappy when he had brought Yang Chen with him, but at this moment if he intervened again, then he would just be embarrassing those three. You better do your best. Since the heaven-seizing pill was important, Elder Wu could only nod, but he still hadn't understood why Yang Chen was doing this. At this moment, Yang Chen laughed bitterly within his heart. Yang Chen had already heard about He Lianyan's nature and his skills in pill concocting in his previous life. Just a moment ago, he had completely offended him, so Yang Chen was convinced that after the refining of the heaven-seizing pill was complete, regardless of whether it was a success or failure, he would surely be chased by He Lianyan, so it was better for him to settle this dispute in Elder Wu's presence and use his influence, otherwise he would never be able to have a peaceful day in his life again. Offending a Yuning stage pill concocting expert wasn't much different from offending the greatest heaven sect in his previous life. He Lianyan evilly grinned while looking at Yang Chen. In his eyes, or rather in the eyes of everyone present, Yang Chen had already lost without any doubt. After losing the geocentric flame, Yang Chen wouldn't have any reasons to remain here, so even if he could not kill Yang Chen right then, he could look for Yang Chen in the future and create trouble for him then. But right now he had a chance to vent some of his resentment on him. Senior, if myself loses then myself will hand the geocentric flame to you. Yang Chen turned towards He Lianyan's side and asked with a smile. I do not know what Senior proposes to stake if he loses. Senior, you are a Yuning stage expert, so in all likelihood you will not renege a debt to the younger generation. I can lose. Don't you think too highly of yourself? He Lianyan grew angrier in his heart. As a pill concocting master, he was an expert in controlling fire. How could his fire controlling skills possibly lose to a trifling Kai-layer youngster like Yang Chen? But in front of these Yuning stage experts and Elder Wu, he could not say this directly, otherwise he would appear too narrow-minded. Although this was something which all them mutually agreed on, it could still not be spoken publicly. But what Yang Chen said was also reasonable, since both parties had agreed on the wager, then if only one party put forward their stakes, that would indeed be quite unjust. You desire something? He Lianyan smiled despite his extreme fury, while everyone else was completely calm. As pill concocting masters, apart from controlling fire, they were also required to be calm more than anything. When they reached a crucial point after starting to concoct pills with their furnace, this was a very essential quality. Since myself must put forward a flame, then Senior should also do the same, what do you say? Yang Chen declared his own request and fixed his gaze on He Lianyan. You want to bet your geocentric flame against my real sun fire? Hearing this request, He Lianyan almost spat blood because of his anger. Although the geocentric flame was the most suitable flame for pill concocting in the mortal world, his real sun fire was at least 2 grades higher than the geocentric flame. This stake was simply not fair. Myself is only at the Kai layer, while Senior is already at the Yuning stage. Has Senior already admitted defeat within his heart? But Yang Chen did not cower in the slightest because of He Lianyan's anger. The difference in their cultivation was very high, while his gains on winning were next to nothing. These words were precisely to provoke He Lianyan and make him fall into his trap. In his previous life, the flame that he had collected was precisely this real sun fire, merely at that time he had only narrowly escaped. Since he had already offended Lianyun, he might offend him all the way. In any case, after this matter was over, Lianyun would surely try to kill him, so Yang Chen naturally had to obtain as many benefits as he could for later. Good. 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 Lianyun was unable to suppress his anger after being provoked by Yang Chen. He even repeated the word good 3 times. Gnashing his teeth he said. You really are a courageous youngster. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Regardless of your cultivation, this old man admires your guts. Everyone was astonished again after Lianyun finished speaking. His eyes were shone in a cold light, similar to a bloodthirsty animal. Since a youngster like you is so excited, how could this old man not also be excited? Good, we'll bet our flames. After he finished speaking, he turned towards Elder Wu and while cupping his hands, said. Elder Wu, it's not that this old man is taking the advantage of his seniority, but this junior is compelling me to do this, therefore I request Elder Wu to bear the witness. Not just Elder Wu, even Zhu Peng, Deng Yi and Fan Shan from the beast-taming sect did not understand why on the earth Yang Chen had gone mad. But since this situation had already developed until here, they couldn't find an exit out of this embarrassing situation for either party. Just as Elder Wu was feeling embarrassed, Yang Chen turned towards him and similarly cupped his hands. Elder Wu, this junior requests senior to be the witness. Knowing that this matter had already reached the point of no return, Elder Wu could only nod, but he also added one remark. No matter what, the stakes of this gamble can only be taken after the refining the heaven-seizing pill, the refining must not be delayed any further. He asked everyone to come here in order to refine the heaven-seizing pill, so he certainly did not want that one of 2 pill-concocting masters lost his flame before the refining could even begin. As Elder Wu commands. Yang Chen and Lianyun both cupped their hands. Both of them clearly understood that Elder Wu had already yielded to the maximum limit, so they naturally did not have any objection. Youngster, I do not believe that you have spent enough time practicing the fire controlling skill. Lianyun looked at Yang Chen like looking at a dead man. I will wait for you to cup your hands and offer me the geocentric flame. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 74. Is this something a human can do? Yang Chen did not cower in the least and walked over to the open space. The other people sat down in their respective quarters, waiting to see what kind of fire controlling method Yang Chen would use in the end. As a matter of fact, Elder Wu was not only anxious in his heart but much more suspicious. He had talked with Yang Chen all throughout the journey and he didn't think that Yang Chen was a person without a sense of propriety, but here he was being so abnormal, which really put him at a loss. He really did not understand it. Yang Chen was a Kai-layer youngster, even if he was very confident, how could he still dare to challenge a Yuning expert? Zhu Peng, Deng Yi and Fan Shan were similarly perplexed. Deng Yi and Zhu Peng were both pill-concocting experts, both were fire-attributed cultivators, and both were Yuning experts. Because of their experience, they were able to roughly estimate Lianyun's control over fire. They really didn't believe that Yang Chen had any way to achieve victory. And even though Fan Shan was a person of the beast-taming sect, it was not like he was completely ignorant of the fire attribute. The Kai layer against the Yuning stage, this disparity between cultivation was an impassable mountain. Even if Yang Chen used an exquisite fire-controlling method, Lianyun could make up for anything merely by using his cultivation. It had to be known that these 2 people hadn't agreed on restricting Lianyun's cultivation base. This also displayed Lianyun's calm-headedness. Even if he was burning with fury in his heart, he was still cautious enough to leave behind a loophole for him to cheat. Zhu Peng knew about this point, so did Deng Yi and Fan Shan, but none of them reminded Yang Chen. After all, when all was said and done, Yang Chen was only a Kai-layer youngster, unworthy for them to become hostile with a fellow Yuning stage pill-concocting master. Everyone was waiting to look at Yang Chen's performance, and Yang Chen didn't let them wait for long. He walked to the middle of the open space and stopped, then, after concentrating his breath and calming down, he lifted his hands up. Soon afterwards, a trace of flame emerged between his hands. The dark red-colored flame made the eyes of everyone present turn sinister. Everyone could clearly make out with just a glance that the flame in Yang Chen's hand was the geocentric flame, without the slightest amount of corruption. Moreover, under the probing of everyone's spiritual awareness, they confirmed that Yang Chen was really at the Kai layer and not some expert in disguise. Currently Yang Chen's performance was equivalent to Kai layer cultivation, not exceeding it even a little bit. But the more it was like this, the more it made everyone curious. Their eyes were fixed on the scene, but this was still not sufficient. Everyone's spiritual awareness was also firmly observing everything, afraid to miss even a little. The dark red-colored flame had successfully surrounded him like a ring. Soon after that, it drew the outline of a somewhat baffling image. This skill was not something that amazed everyone, instead it could even be called as just ordinary. A complacent smile covered Lianyun's face, apparently the geocentric flame had already fallen into his hands. Yang Chen naturally hadn't finished, the flame in front of his body had turned into a paintbrush, accurately drawing the outline of a strange picture. For the time being it could be said that nobody could make out anything about the picture, but that one trace of flame was well proportioned from beginning to end. Furthermore, until now it was still a trace, without the slightest interruptions. Just this skill alone was worthy of everyone's applause. For those Yuning cultivators, it was not difficult to accomplish such a thing, especially for the three-pill concocting experts. But the person doing the performance, Yang Chen, was a Kai-layer cultivator, so this was actually very precious and remarkable. Everyone was clear about what was going on, even if it was a Jidan stage expert, wanting to accomplish such a thing was not an easy matter. Just seeing this, everyone clearly realized why Elder Wu had brought Yang Chen together with him, just based on this control over fire and his geocentric flame, he is absolutely capable of increasing the grade of all ingredients for the heaven-seizing pill. If the grades of all ingredients were increased, then they were convinced that the rate of success for refining would greatly increase. Elder Wu, who had originally brought Yang Chen here, had also made the decision after seeing this. Currently everyone clearly realized Elder Wu's intentions, but the previous contempt shown by everyone, together with Lianyun's ruthless proposal, had forced Yang Chen into a corner where he was forced to stand up for himself. But the chances of refining the heaven-seizing pill to increase was something that everyone, whether it was Elder Wu or those other people, would be glad to see. If the heaven-seizing pill was refined successfully, not only would Elder Wu gain benefits, but these other people who were participating in the refining would also gain an eternal name, and in the future, when they would be ascending, they would have the means to increase their chances of success. But at this moment, they did not know what was to be done about that matter caused by Lianyun. Even if they were able to provide an amicable conclusion to this, who could guarantee that Yang Chen would still make an all-out effort to help them? Everyone had their usefulness, even a nobody had a nobody's usefulness. Although everyone's level was high in the respect of extracting the material, they still required the geocentric flame, possessing Yang Chen's full strength. But Lianyun did not think in this way, he had fixed his gaze on Yang Chen and from time to time coldly snorted, filled with contempt. If this was everything Yang Chen had to show, he could do all of this effortlessly, did he even have the ability to control fire? This kind of minor talent, how could he even dare to show his face in front of a Yuning stage fire-attributed cultivator? Yang Chen kept his concentration single-mindedly on the flame, as if he had not noticed the change in everyone's mood. The range of the flame was small, which had something to do with his cultivation. But the more smaller the range was, the more it tested his control over fire, everyone clearly understood this point. The image began to become more and more complex, it was so densely packed that nobody was able to make out what kind of image it was. Everyone's eyes were only fixed on the piece of dark red flame. Only with the use of spiritual awareness did it become clear that Yang Chen had used red-like flames to draw a clear pattern on a disc. The image was very regular, it was very much like a spell diagram, but it still wasn't complete, so nobody knew what it was. The more time was taken, the more their interest in the picture increased, and the stronger their expectations were. If he was daring to fight with a Yuning stage expert, then would a simple image be of any use? Beads of sweat had already started appearing on Yang Chen's head, clearly this kind of control required all of his attention. Nothing could be done about this, as his cultivation was only at the Kai layer and hadn't yet attained the level where he could connect the energy of heaven and earth. Using a lot of energy was a laborious task, this was a fact which no one could change. Even if Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was formidable, this one fact still wouldn't change. Finally, when Yang Chen's flame control reached its peak, the entire red pattern was complete. Yang Chen took a long sigh of relief and revealed a smiling expression. Is it over? In front of me you still dare to. Lianyun had only just spoken, when suddenly, as if he had seen a demon, he became speechless, staring at the painting within Yang Chen's hands. Not only Lianyun, but even Deng Yi, Zhu Peng and Fan Shan's expressions were like they had seen a demon, and Elder Wu was even more stunned when looking between Yang Chen's hands that even his mouth opened, but he still did not dare to believe his own eyes. Not only did he not dare to believe his eyes, but he also did not dare to believe his spiritual awareness. How was this possible? Was this even something a Kai-layer youngster was able to achieve? To use the word exaggerated could not cover his astonishment, was it even possible for a human to produce this? The image of flame in Yang Chen's hands had already turned light blue at this moment, and a portion of spirit power had begun to rise from the surroundings. Everyone on the scene was an expert, with just a sweep of their spiritual awareness, did they clearly realize that this portion of spirit power was water-attributed spirit power. Within the villa of a Dacheng stage expert like Elder Wu, spirit power of all 5 phases was plentiful, so it was not a strange matter. The image in Yang Chen's hands, everyone clearly realized what it was at this moment. It was a spirit gathering spell, a low-level spell formation to gather water attributed spirit power. Nobody there was a water attributed cultivator or a spell formation expert. It was only natural that they did not recognize it the first time when they saw the incomplete spell formation. The flame was the low-level geocentric flame, the spell formation was the low-leveled spirit-gathering formation, the spirit power that gathered was also not very great, merely some water-attributed spirit power within a very small area, at most the spell formation's result could cover the room they were in. But nobody dared to ridicule this spell formation's formidable power, and even less daring to ridicule Yang Chen's control over the flame. Using the flame of the geocentric flame to forcibly draw a spirit-gathering spell of the water attribute while it was also in the air, without using any ingredients, and just with the help of the flame in his hand. Was this still a pill-concocting master? The most frightening thing was that Yang Chen had surprisingly used a flame to draw a water-attributed spell formation. Those two elements among the 5 phases which were completely opposite of each other were surprisingly unified at this moment. This kind of skill, if one did not see it with one's own eyes, one wouldn't even listen to the description. Not daring, not believing, unimaginable. At this moment, no matter whether it was the Yuning stage experts or the Dacheng stage expert, no matter whether it was the pill-concocting masters or the beast-taming master, all of them had the same facial expressions. A flame could even be used in such a way, it could actually be used in conjunction with the realm of water. Which known high-level spells did not require high-level ingredients, a high-level spell diagram, and exceedingly powerful spirit power. Even if it was a low-leveled spirit-gathering spell, didn't that also require some water-attributed ingredients? Using the flame without any foundation to draw an image and produce spirit power from it, this was already enough to shock people, but using the flame to draw a water-attributed spirit-gathering spell, this had completely toppled all of the knowledge they had regarding the 5 phases. Was this still something that a human could achieve? Everyone here was an expert, so they didn't need Yang Chen to remind them. Naturally everyone had used their spiritual awareness to thoroughly examine everything from all around and inside out of this spell. They didn't have any doubts, the spell diagram was completely arranged by the flame, it was very clear to everyone that apart from the flame, no other method was used. Although everyone could see all 5 phases of spirit power within Yang Chen's body, but among the people there, who didn't. Apart from those people who had full spirit roots of the 5 phases, all people under the heavens have every kind of the 5 phases present, only in some people one attribute had a majority, that's all. Yang Chen was no exception, with the fire attribute as the major. But Yang Chen's flame was against reason, to build a complete water-attributed spirit-gathering formation, which in addition to that already began to condense water, attributed spirit power from the surroundings. This point was examined very thoroughly and attentively by the spiritual awareness of everyone there. In front of these 4 Yuning stage experts and the 1 Dacheng stage expert, Yang Chen had not possibility of lying. Water and fire are not compatible. This was an argument that had been passed on for countless generations, which had right then been destroyed in front of everyone's eyes. Those people were completely shocked and looked at each other for a long time. Only then did they discover that the others had also lost their self-control similar to themselves. Apparently, all these years they had just been frogs at the bottom of a well, everyone clearly realized this point. Immediately afterwards the few pill-concocting experts began to stand up excitedly. Fire could also be used this way, then wouldn't it provide them a direction for future research? Even though Fan Shan and Elder Wu were not fire-attributed cultivators, their bodies also possessed spirit roots of the 5 phases. If fire could be used in this way, then so could the other elements, which made them also very excited. The only person who was alarmed was Lianyan. When Yang Chen had used the flame to make that water-attributed spirit-gathering spell and it began to condense spirit power, he was so stunned and dumbstruck that he was not even able to say anything. Lianyan's cultivation was very high and he also was a 3rd-grade pill-concocting master already. Although his control over fire could not be said to be in the realm of perfection, still it had reached great heights, otherwise it would not be possible for him to become a renowned pill-concocting master. But this skill of Yang Chen, he did not even dare to think, let alone declare to go against it. Even if he had the strength of the Yuning stage and could make up for the deficiency in his control over fire by using the immense gap in their cultivation, he still did not dare to say that he was capable of merging fire and water. He clearly did not understand the crux of the matter, not to mention following Yang Chen's method again all the way through. However, previously he had already gambled his flame for Yang Chen's flame. Wouldn't this mean that the real sun flame, which he had obtained after making countless efforts and using countless number of pills as exchange, which had also wasted a century of his life to refine, would go to Yang Chen, this Kailayer youngster, in vain? It was not an exaggeration to say that a high-level flame was like lifeblood to fire-attributed cultivators. This time, Yang Chen had surpassed him in every aspect. Once he handed over the real sun fire, Lianyan could conclude that his Yung would immediately be scattered and his realm would fall back down to the Jidan or an even lower realm. He had only reached the Yuning stage after refining the real sun fire. If he handed it over, there would be no difference between this and directly crippling his cultivation. His words had not yet reached the ground and were only ringing in the ears one, but, together with Yang Chen, he had invited Elder Wu to be the witness. Did Lianyan dare to go back on his debt in front of Elder Wu? Would he really have to hand over the real sun fire? If he did not have the real sun fire, could he continue to preserve his status as a Yuning stage cultivator and a pill concocting master? In his fear, Lianyan's eyes already turned to Zhu Peng and Deng Yi. As long as these two opened their mouths, Elder Wu would also not dare to risk offending the three high-grade pill concocting masters at the same time to forcefully make him hand over the real sun fire. Although the shame of eating his own words would forever stain his face, at least he would still be able to maintain his position. What made Lianyan even more dismayed was the fact that, when he requested help from Zhu Peng and Deng Yi, as if both of them hadn't sensed his gaze, their eyes were completely fixed on Yang Chen. Lianyan's heart immediately fell to an all-time low. Something that was said very recently. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 75 The Real Sun Fire is Mine. Although using a flame to draw an image in the air without any support was not an extremely difficult task, the difficulty was in forming a spell diagram and furthermore have the spell diagram to show its effects and most of all using the flame to construct a water-attributed spell diagram. Even the people there still hadn't realized how he had done that. Yang Chen very clearly understood that nobody, including Elder Wu, would be able to understand that mystery. Naturally he would also not educate them, this was something they could only begin to ponder over after reaching the spiritual world. The opponent was at the Yuning stage, normal methods wouldn't have been able to suppress these people at the top, so naturally Yang Chen needed to use something unusual. Using a flame to produce a spell was not very complicated and Yang Chen was currently fully able to do that, therefore he had directly used this method. Apparently the results were pretty good, at least when these 5 people looked at him now, it was as if they were looking at a monster, so Yang Chen's goal was already accomplished. He had gotten hold of the real sun fire and moreover his words had gained value during the refining process of the heaven-seizing pill. If everything had gone normally, even if these people had accepted Yang Chen, they still wouldn't have looked at him favorably, they would have allowed him to enter and considered him as a dispensable servant for supporting them at most, to give face to Elder Wu. But after this performance, nobody would be able to give him any orders regarding controlling the fire. Suddenly the blue-colored spirit-gathering spell between his hands dispersed and it turned into a trace of extremely thin flame again. One end was connected to Yang Chen's right hand while the other was free in the air. The spirit-gathering spell also lost its effectiveness and the spirit power it had gathered suddenly exploded on Yang Chen's side, emitting a blue light. Yang Chen shook his right hand and the trace of the flame wound around it and shook with it, then it swiftly dispersed from a chaotic ball and turned into an absolutely nimble rope. Soon afterwards, Yang Chen's right hand faintly turned few times and the flame within his hands began to twist around Yang Chen's hands like a whip. Soon after that, Yang Chen slowly collected the lump of flame that had coiled around him back into his body and raised his head to look at everyone. This kind of performance, treating fire like a real object, once again managed to get everyone's attention. But compared to the earlier stunning performance of producing a spell from the flame, this was relatively easier by much. The pill concocting masters at the scene could barely accomplish it, relying on their strength of the Yuning stage, but if their cultivation was made equal to Yang Chen, it would also extinguish their hopes of being able to do it. Senior Lianyan, I have already finished, I invite Senior to start. With a smile, Yang Chen did an inviting gesture towards Lianyan and afterward he stepped aside from the middle position and walked to Elder Wu's side. This Lianyan was quite narrow-minded because Yang Chen had no other way of stopping him, sitting next to Elder Wu was the most secure and safe way. Lianyan's complexion had turned gloomy, at this moment they were already unable to tell his mood. After stopping at the middle of the place, he sank into deep thought. The few people looking at him from the side all had regret within their gaze. A Yuning stage pill concocting expert was cornered by a Kai-layer youngster, they really didn't know what to say about this. Along with Yang Chen's performance, his image within the eyes of these people had also changed greatly, at least within their subconscious mind, their address for him had already changed from Kai-layer youngster to Kai-layer junior. Especially Deng Yi and Zhu Peng couldn't help but feel some sympathy for Lianyan at this moment. But apart from feeling sympathy, they also had some lingering fear, if at that time, they had also jumped out in support of Lianyan's proposal, then maybe Yang Chen would have also challenged them. Then certainly at this moment they would also have to suffer from incessant embarrassment like Lianyan. But nobody had said anything at that time. Seizing Yang Chen's geocentric flame was He Lianyun's own idea. At that time, his words certainly hadn't given the slightest amount of face to the host, Elder Wu, so naturally Elder Wu would also not come to save him, particularly since Elder Wu was acting as the arbiter. Everyone's gazes were fixed on He Lianyun, but from the beginning he was only standing, as if rooted to his position, without making any movements or saying anything. It seemed as if he was deeply pondering about something. Nevertheless, everyone knew what he was pondering about. Actually, once Yang Chen's spell had worked, everyone had thought about, if they were in Yang Chen's place, could they also achieve this, and if they could, how? Surely He Lianyun was also thinking about how to do it, so nobody disturbed him. But this process should not take too long, otherwise all of them may have to wait for tens or hundreds of years for He Lianyun to find a way. Yang Chen would not allow him to do this. Elder Wu, who was acting as the arbiter, would also not favor him. If he wanted to blame someone, then He Lianyun could only blame himself. Finally, after a long moment, He Lianyun walked to the center, extended his hands like Yang Chen, and a thread of flame appeared in his hands, beginning to form an image. But compared to Yang Chen, he actually seemed somewhat out of practice with this thread of flame. After all, this was his first time. Before this he had never thought that flame could be controlled to do this. Luckily he was at the Wielding stage, so under the control of his formidable spirit power, he was barely able to accomplish this with the flame. The spell diagram was different from Yang Chen's, nevertheless it was also a low-leveled water-attributed spell formation that he knew. In any case, everyone here knew that he tried to imitate Yang Chen. The only chance he had at victory was to activate this spell formation in any way he could. Regardless of anything, he was a Wielding stage expert and also a high-level pill concocting master, so he just could not just admit defeat without trying. This was indeed He Lianyun's style. He believed that, even if it happened by a fluke, as long as he was able to complete the spell diagram, he would also be able to easily activate it like Yang Chen had done. Unfortunately, things don't always turn out like expected. Without really knowing the properties of the 5 phases, without really understanding the spell formation and without practicing his control over fire to the peak, he basically could not accomplish Yang Chen's feat. No matter how good He Lianyun's luck was, he would still not be able to produce a miracle. Under numerous dares, He Lianyun's spell diagram was formed many times, but regardless of how much he tried, from the beginning to the end, the spell formation never activated. Even after trying several times, when the spell formation still did not work, He Lianyun's expression finally turned to Shen. Lost. A majestic Wielding stage expert, a third-grade pill concocting master, had unexpectedly lost to a junior at the Kai layer. How could the proud and arrogant He Lianyun bear this? He, who was standing at the top not so long ago, how could he be humiliated in such a way? Although he was extremely furious, he did not dare to show even a trace of it. In front of Elder Wu, he did not dare to raise the issue of breaching the contract. He Lianyun had begun to repent. Why had he jumped out with that sort of attitude at that time? Now that it was too late, he would have to improvise. Perhaps, refining the heaven-seizing pill with an all-out effort was the best opportunity for him. As long as he was able to make Elder Wu happy, maybe he would be able to exchange the wager for some other things at that time. Only when one loses something does one realizes its preciousness. As long as he was not stripped of his real sun fire, He Lianyun was willing to agree to any condition. I lose. In front of Elder Wu, He Lianyun did not think about getting off lightly, he could only admit his defeat, dispiritedly hanging his head. This time, he had taken the initiative and admitted defeat. This was much better than being rudely judged by other people, and at least he could get a favorable impression from Elder Wu. Showing resistance. He had discarded this idea as soon as it had flashed within his mind. What a joke, with just a single hand, Elder Wu could exterminate a Wielding stage expert like him several times over. When all was said and done, He Lianyun was still a person who valued his life and was afraid of dying. Even if real sun fire was very precious and important within the cultivation world, when compared with his life, He Lianyun would still be willing to part with it. As long as he could concoct pills, he would always be able to find an opportunity to exchange them for flames. As for Yang Chen, after Elder Wu ascends, who would be able to protect him? Until this moment, he was thinking about how to handle Yang Chen, maybe he would still be able to snatch back the real sun fire. But all of this was only possible if he remained alive. The real sun fire is mine now. A smile appeared on Yang Chen's face. For now, let it be a deposit inside of you. He Lianyun's admission of defeat also allowed Yang Chen to see He Lianyun's true nature. He was a coward who treated his life as extremely precious, from which Yang Chen could conclude that He Lianyun would definitely not be willing to part with his life for the real sun fire or do something which would end in perishing together with a Kai layer cultivator. As long as He Lianyun tried to do anything to him during the time of refining the real sun fire, he would not be escaped from Elder Wu's hands. With this guarantee, Yang Chen could feel relieved and take part in the refining without any fear. As for what happened afterwards, that was a matter for the future. Lianyun without the real sun fire against Yang Chen, who had absorbed the real sun fire, even if there was a large gap between their realms, he was convinced that Lianyun would not dare to attack him within the territory of the Pure Yang Palace. In any case, after Yang Chen returned from the Immortal Falling Well, he would surely be able to pay his respects to his master in the Pure Yang Palace. At that time the Pure Yang Palace would certainly defend a talented pill-concocting master like him to the death. After this minor incident, nobody dared to look at Yang Chen with contempt any longer. Currently everyone who had been gathered by Elder Wu had already arrived, following was the long and tedious process of preparation. Elder Wu had already prepared all ingredients, now everything was ready and all they needed was an East Wind one. Unfortunately, the pill recipe which Elder Wu had was passed down from a senior who had refined the heaven-seizing pill to the later generation and had moved from person to person before reaching him. This meant that the pill recipe was not complete, only the list of ingredients used and the earliest stages of the refining method were recorded, but no word about the final stage was mentioned. Everything would require all of them to discuss and test things out. The reason why he had gathered 3 pill concocting masters was precisely because of this. The ingredients were plentiful, up to the point that it could shock 95% of all cultivators in this world. It seemed that apart from Elder Wu, this Dacheng stage expert, other people were simply not able to gather this many ingredients. Just the first stage of refining already required several years, even if it was divided among 3 pill concocting masters, it would still take 3 to 4 years. The heaven-seizing pill was completely different from other ordinary pills. It seemed to Yang Chen that this heaven-seizing pill was basically a combination of 10 top-grade pills, moreover it still required a powerful demonic beast spirit as the pill spirit, only then could it be refined. Just this requirement preceded over the other top-grade pills, that was already sufficient to test these pill-concocting masters, not to mention that the final stage was the fusion of the pill spirit with the elixirs produced during the process. For ordinary pill-concocting masters, that simply was an unimaginable affair. Several kinds of elixirs of all 5 attributes, rousing and restraining one another and wanting to fuse together. This was an extremely troublesome affair for these Yuning stage pill-concocting masters. This authority was the privilege for which Yang Chen had fought with Lianyun over. The ingredients were sorted according to their properties, simply stockpiling them occupied an entire storeroom with the size of 2 wide halls, but this still didn't include the huge dead bodies of those demonic beasts. For just a first-grade refining of these ingredients, it would require half a year's time. Currently, the work of purifying the ingredients had entirely been handed over to Yang Chen. His geocentric flame was the most suitable flame for refining ingredients, and moreover, Yang Chen's performance had made all of them acknowledge that his control over fire was splendid. If he was not most suited for purifying the ingredients, then who was? As long as the most basic ingredients could be upgraded, it would greatly increase the chances of success in the final stage, nobody could deny this fact. So all of these people were very courteous to him. Everyone was staying in Elder Wu's villa. When those pill-concocting experts were discussing with Elder Wu about how to execute the last step, Yang Chen had begun the work of purifying the ingredients. This time, Yang Chen wasn't empty-handed like before, instead he was using the profound spirit furnace. Once he took out the profound spirit furnace, it immediately stunned all of them. Naturally, they were not astonished by the grade of the profound spirit furnace, but rather at the fact that the profound spirit furnace was a magic treasure. Although the name of the profound spirit furnace would someday shake the heavenly court, it was currently only a low-level pill-concocting furnace and was still far from the condition which could make Yuning experts lust after it. Yang Chen was only at the peak high layer, yet he could use and refine a magic weapon, and that also without any difficulty. That was the thing that really amazed these experts. But despite being amazed, they did not say anything. In this world cultivation geniuses were a dime a dozen, too many to count, so this was a common occurrence. After purifying the medicines, he carefully placed them into the most suitable vessels for each of them and afterwards extremely carefully arranged them, one after another, within the plaza. From the beginning, Zhu Peng, Deng Yi and Lianyun would all frequently visit to check the progress of his refining. But every time they visited, all of them only nodded without speaking. After Yang Chen purified the ingredients, all of the impurities were completely expelled and only the purest part of the ingredients remained. Even the 3 Yuning experts couldn't help but admire him. Even if they were substituted to do the work, they could not guarantee that they would do it better than Yang Chen. It was even possible that they couldn't compare to Yang Chen. When Lianyun looked at Yang Chen, he had no peculiarity in his gaze, even in discussions he was making an all-out effort so that nobody could see any dissatisfaction from him. But every time he looked at these purified ingredients, a trace of viciousness would flash through his expression, but nobody noticed it. Within half a year's time, Yang Chen had refined all of the ingredients that needed refining. As for the rest of the materials, they had to be refined on the spot for use, like the high-grade blue-green zoysia. All of those were left, waiting to be purified at the final stage. The three Yuaning stage pill concocting masters had finally come up with 10 methods after a discussion over thousands of types of proposals, and if needed, they could also be changed according to the situation. Now that everything was in place and ready, they could only wait for the refining to begin. One idiom, meaning that something crucial is still lacking. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 76. While others refine, I practice. After the refining had begun, there was no work left for Yang Chen. His strength was indeed very low, so he wasn't even able to refine the random elixirs required for the heaven-seizing pill and could only stare blankly at those other people doing their job. Zhu Peng, Deng Yi and He Lianyun did indeed deserve their reputation. Apart from the minor gamble earlier where He Lianyun had behaved rudely with Yang Chen, every one of them had their own merits. Although Yang Chen could be said to have achieved great heights in his control over fire, in his previous life, he hadn't painstakingly studied pill concocting and could thus only be counted as the most ordinary pill concocting master within the heavenly court. On one hand, he didn't have a magic tool grade pill furnace, and on the other hand, he was always hiding, so he never got the chance to practice. The little knowledge that he did have was due to coming in contact with many great pill concocting masters and interacting with them, but he never had the opportunity to actually practice. But currently he had the opportunity to observe these high-grade pill concocting masters doing the refining at a close range. Based on his previous life's experience and the knowledge from the pill scriptures provided to him by the greatest supreme elder, Yang Chen could determine the essence of these skills in a single glance. These pill concocting masters were really worthy to be called the mortal world's highest grade pill concoctors. Every one of them had their own unique concepts, and the skills which they were using had nothing in common, which broadened Yang Chen's horizons. Although their techniques varied greatly, they all had the same goal. Now Yang Chen had finally discovered which of the approaches mentioned within Greatest Supreme Elder's pill scriptures, these three pill concocting masters, used for heat control and processing the ingredients. Furthermore, the techniques mentioned within the Greatest Supreme Elder's pill scriptures had an even more outstanding efficacy when compared to those used by these three. Although it was like this, it was not even a bit out of Yang Chen's expectations. If the Greatest Supreme Elder's pill scriptures were not sufficient, then which pill concocting master's techniques would be more sufficient? He could almost be considered as the greatest pill concocting master within the heaven and earth, but unfortunately, even though the pill scriptures contained all kind of methods to process ingredients, but for the techniques to concoct pills as well as the methods to collect and condense the pills, there wasn't even a single recipe. Otherwise, if there was a recipe of even a single 9th grade Jidan pill and the proper ingredients, a single pill was capable of increasing his cultivation so that he would immediately be able to ascend. Refining a pill was not a short-time affair. Yang Chen didn't mind chatting with Fan Shan for all this time. The main purpose of Fan Shan was to refine the primary spirit of that demonic beast. Frankly speaking, the primary spirit of the demonic beast was already equivalent to a primordial spirit of demonic beasts, with a cultivation at the Yuaning stage or higher. The more powerful the demonic beast used, the higher the chances of the refining of the heaven-seizing pill being successful. The demonic beast was acquired by Elder Wu himself. The demonic beast at Yuaning stage was almost one step away from being able to ascend and enter the spiritual world. Only a Dacheng stage expert who was going to ascend, like Elder Wu, was capable of capturing it without injuring it. Other people would not be of any help in that regard. But after capturing it, Fan Shan had to do the next step, that was to forcefully separate the demonic beast's primary spirit. This was something only the people of the beast-taming sect were specialized in. Naturally, Fan Shan would not talk about anything related to controlling beasts with Yang Chen, as Yang Chen was only a trifling Kai layer disciple and did not have the qualifications to discuss with him in this respect. What Fan Shan was interested in was Yang Chen's skill in controlling fire. Everyone had all 5 attributes, but surprisingly Yang Chen had achieved such a level at Kai layer. Anyone who saw this could easily determine that Yang Chen surely had a unique cultivation secret. Unfortunately, regardless of any kind of insinuations made by Fan Shan or any kind of promises made by him, Yang Chen didn't reveal anything regarding his cultivation method. This was not much of a surprise for Fan Shan. If other people asked him regarding his beast-taming skills, he would also not calmly tell them. Since Elder Wu was here, nobody could attack Yang Chen and could only maintain a friendly relationship. After Fan Shan was certain that he would be unable to obtain the cultivation secret from Yang Chen, he decided to make good friends with him. Fan Shan was able to reach the Yuning stage so naturally he was no fool, a Kai layer cultivator with such accomplishments. In 10 or 100 or 1,000 years, Yang Chen would take the throne among pill concocting masters if he was not able to build a good relationship with such a pill concocting master with boundless prospects, then he would indeed be an idiot. Fan Shan was meticulously trying to build a relationship with Yang Chen, while Yang Chen was also interested in getting a powerful helper within the cultivation world. Both of them clicked together and were very happily chatting with each other. Apart from matters regarding cultivation or other such matters, Fan Shan was telling Yang Chen everything he knew, from things of pleasure to material for magic weapons. Fan Shan was talking with Yang Chen about everything. Elder Wu was paying close attention to the refining. The first stage was not very difficult, as everyone was at the level of a third-grade pill concocting master. Adding to that the records of the early stages, the separate elixirs were all completely refined within a period of 1 year. Only a few comparatively high-grade elixirs could not be refined the first time, all others were refined the first time itself. Even these few troublesome but comparatively high-grade elixirs, after passing through refining several times, were also all completely refined. Of course, more than one batch of materials was prepared, every kind of material had reserves which could be used several times to be used as contingency. While refining, everyone sensed that the ingredients refined by Yang Chen were exceptionally comfortable to use, the medicinal quality was just perfect and was also at the extreme limit which they could handle. While refining, they also did not need to worry about whether the medicinal efficacy would reach the minimum qualifications. As long as they single-mindedly devoted themselves to refining, they would have the most comfortable months of their pill refining careers. The most comfortable thing for them was that every time they wanted to retrieve ingredients, they would find the ingredient in a region which they could reach very easily. Yang Chen had already placed all of the ingredients in accordance with the requirements. According to pill recipe on the record, all of the preparations were completely done. Even if he was just a servant to support them, he was also the servant which caused them the least amount of worries. They never had to face failure because of Yang Chen having trouble with the ingredients or because Yang Chen's preparations were unsuitable. The few times they failed was not because of heat control, but because they had made an error in their skills, or perhaps because the elixir itself was very difficult to make and had a low success rate, which had no relation with Yang Chen. When assisting these people by preparing their ingredients, Yang Chen also observed their refining skills at a very close distance. Perhaps the other 3 pill concocting masters believed that if they themselves did not explain, other people watching their refining process would not be able to learn anything, so they were fearless and had never before guarded against it. But it was nevertheless a huge convenience for Yang Chen. Everyone's unique skills and refining methods were thoroughly researched by Yang Chen. Yang Chen had never been this brazen before the eyes of these 3 pill concocting masters, he was secretly learning their pill concocting skills thoroughly and even improving on them. Unfortunately, nobody would know about this. From purifying to refining the ingredients, by now the refining of the elixirs was complete within just a bit more than a year's time. But in this time, apart from corroborating the skills of those high-grade pill concocting masters with the pill scriptures of the greatest supreme elder and discussing with Fan Shan, the rest of the time he was cultivating. After absorbing the spirit power, Yang Chen's cultivation had increased from the 8th Kai layer to the peak of the Kai stage at the 10th Kai layer. In general, people believed that the quicker their cultivation increased the better, but even though he had broken through 2 layers, for Yang Chen, although his cultivation had increased, it was not the sort of increase which he desired. In his view, the most ideal way of increasing one's cultivation was still to follow the prescribed order and break through 1 layer by 1 layer and accumulate the breakthroughs of small layers until one's realm increased. From the cultivation experience of his previous life, Yang Chen had known that this was the most stable method for increasing his cultivation, which would cause him least amount of trouble later. Although very quickly increasing the layers could allow him to raise his realms faster, but the foundation would not be stable enough, and in the future, because of not stabilizing the foundation properly, his strength would not be enough to break through many times at some crucial point. This was simply incomparable to spending some more years at the lower realm to build a proper foundation with which future breakthroughs would be very quick. But the actual circumstances currently did not allow him to achieve this. Yang Chen was completely aware that after absorbing the flame, the increase in his fire attribute cultivation would not be something he could control, therefore, he had to think of every possible method to remedy this. After increasing his cultivation quickly, he had to immediately stabilize his current realm and afterwards consolidate his current layer sufficiently. This was the best method for decreasing the inconsistency in his future cultivation, even if it would take him some time. This time, all that Yang Chen had to do was to consolidate his realm. The refining of the heaven-seizing pill was chance which was hard to come by for Yang Chen. while making the pill for a defying stage expert who was going to ascend, even the high-grade pill concocting masters like Xu Peng, Bang Yi and He Lianyan would not be able to guess the amount of spirit power accumulated within, and Yang Chen could absorb some of it as a side effect during the process of refining. The refining and purification by Yang Chen was not a process with improvisation in whatever way he wanted, instead they were in accordance with a certain order, beginning with the fire attribute, it was based on the 5 attributes rousing each other, one by one, during the refining. The ingredients consisted of things of all 5 phases, and their yin and yang, moreover they were not some ordinary ingredients, instead they were the best ones, which allowed Yang Chen to borrow their medicinal kai and use it to rinse his meridians entirely, once. Even if the medicinal kai was barely sufficient to refine the spirit power overflowing from the process, but it was enough for a kai layer cultivator like Yang Chen to completely remove his hidden damages, formed from the continuous increase in his strength, so it would allow to his current realm to stabilize properly and the spirit power becoming even purer. The large amount of medicinal kai was nourishing not only Yang Chen's realm, but also the profound spirit furnace. The higher the grade of the ingredient was, the better it was in nourishing the pill concocting furnace. Yang Chen's mind was almost linked with the profound spirit furnace, he could even sense the plentiful spirit power congesting at every corner of the profound spirit furnace. Under the influence of these high-grade ingredients, the profound spirit furnace slowly began to mature and the body of the furnace began to show some slight variations. Although it still hadn't reached the condition where it could increase by 1 whole grade, the pills refined by the current profound spirit furnace would at least have 20% more medicinal strength than before. All of the basic pills were already completed, now what remained was using every kind of method to fuse these pills and Yang Chen's work to purify the high-grade blue-green zoysia. Within this time, Yang Chen's fire-attributed peak kai layer cultivation had already consolidated completely, not only that, his other attributes at the 8th kai layer had also been extremely stabilized and had reached the required condition to be raised. The refining and purifying of the top-grade blue-green zoysia was Yang Chen's opportunity. The main ingredient of the heaven-seizing pill was the blue-green zoysia, the immense amount of spirit power accumulated within it could be described as an ocean of spirit power, which could allow the defying stage expert to ascend. So even a little bit of medicinal kai absorbed at the time of refining and purifying was sufficient for Yang Chen to break through the peak kai layer and enter into the foundation stage. All of the 3 pill concocting masters were racking their brains to think of the method for fusing all of the ingredients in the final stage, so who would pay attention to Yang Chen? Although He Lianyan bore grudges towards him, in front of Elder Wu, he didn't dare to reveal even an inkling of it. Yang Chen would also be able to execute his plan with ease without any interference, under the protection of the 4 Yuaning and 1 defying stage expert. The top-grade blue-green zoysia, although it could only be found in the depths of jade ore, it could be classified as a heavenly ingredient among all of the ingredients of all the 5 phases. It was also the key for the fusion of these other foundation pills. All steps in refining and purifying the blue-green zoysia followed a loop, if it weren't for Yang Chen showing his almost perfect control over fire previously, this task would definitely not be given to him. At that time, when Elder Wu had come looking for Yang Chen, although it looked like he was effortlessly carrying the blue-green zoysia within his hand, in truth he had to use 30% of his strength to endure the blue-green zoysia. This kind of heavenly material possessed intelligence, this meant that if someone was not careful, it would directly escape and run away out of someone's hand. Even now Elder Wu rather carried the blue-green zoysia on his body than keeping it near the other ingredients. The box containing it was opened, little by little revealing the blue-green colored zoysia. It seemed like it had sensed its destiny, initially the zoysia was like a dead object, but then it started to get restless like a startled animal, but under the control Elder Wu's formidable power, it could only squirm within a small area and change shapes, unable to run in the slightest. At Yang Chen's side, Elder Wu had arranged 3 layers of restrictions, this kind of arrangement was done so that, even if Yang Chen was unable to control the zoysia for some amount of time, the zoysia would still not be able to escape. It had to be known that, as long as the zoysia could touch the ground, it could immediately use earth evasion like an expert in escape. Are you absolutely certain? Elder Wu asked Yang Chen in a concerned tone before he started. Everyone had very serious expressions, naturally Yang Chen didn't say much, he only nodded his head slightly, but the flame had already began to untangle within the furnace, it quickly formed an extremely complicated spell diagram. At the center of the spell diagram, pea-sized flames were emitting specks of dark red light. Looking at this spell diagram, Elder Wu showed a praising look. This was basically the restrictive spell formation which he had used to restrict the blue-green zoysia within the bottle. Laying this kind of proper foundation, the rate of success would definitely not be low. When the high-grade pill concocting expert saw that Yang Chen was capable of such manipulation within the pill concocting furnace, their faces turned serious. They fixed their gazes on the profound spirit furnace within Yang Chen's hands, afraid to miss anything. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 77. There are still benefits like this. Engraving a spell formation within pill furnaces was not a strange thing, even Yang Chen could initiate the Earth Fiend spell within the profound spirit furnace to increase its strength at the time of executing the Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets. But this was still the first time of using a flame to form the spell formation within the furnace. Regardless of whether it was those three pill concocting masters or Elder Wu, it was the first time for all of them to see such a method. If this kind of method was used by a Dacheng stage pill concocting master, these people would not find it strange and would admire the pill concocting master as if he was an untouchable mountain, but right now it was being used by a Kai layer disciple, specifically one who was not someone from a great sect specialized in pill concocting, but rather a disciple of Pure Yang Palace. All of those pill concocting masters felt like a disgrace when looking at Yang Chen carrying out the process. They wanted to know even more, but they were not able to shed the arrogance of Yuning stage experts and were ashamed to ask him about this, so they could only open their eyes widely and watch everything attentively, intending to make out even an inkling of what he was doing. But regardless of how much they observed with their eyes and how much they examined with their spiritual awareness, they were still unable to comprehend the crucial point of the process and were as confused as before. Once the top-grade Zoysia entered the profound spirit furnace, it immediately began to shudder, but being controlled by Yang Chen using fire, it was unable to escape for some time. Within this time, those pea-sized flames wrapped around the blue-green Zoysia, and the originally bluish-green Zoysia was successfully turned into a dark red color. This one ingredient was very important, and even with Yang Chen's skill, it could only be stopped for a few breaths. But these few breaths were enough for the lid of the profound spirit furnace to be covered properly. When the flame restrictions of Yang Chen collided with the blue-green Zoysia and the 6th Earth Fiend spell formation of the 6th layer of the refining of the Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets within the profound spirit furnace began to display its effects at the same time, it firmly locked the blue-green Zoysia within the spell formation and did not allow it another chance for escape. Yang Chen only had to exercise control over the profound spirit furnace to be able to provide the necessary spirit power for the spell formation and to accelerate the refining and not have to worry about blue-green Zoysia escaping. The red flame engulfed the whole Zoysia and began to burn it slowly. A trace of the Zoysia's medicinal Kai slowly appeared under the effect of the geocentric flame. This one trace was enough for Yang Chen to make up for the expenditure for using the spell formation in the pill furnace, and it was also enough to fulfill the requirements for controlling the flame. He didn't even need to use Yang Kai pills to recover his spirit power. Refining this Zoysia was not as easy as refining the Zoysia which Elder Wu had used for testing, or all of this could be accomplished within a moment. The geocentric flame was burning brightly, but it was as if the Zoysia possessed its own spiritual influence and was using it to protect its body. Yang Chen could not even refine a single trace of it for a short time, no matter what method he used. But since the Zoysia had already entered the profound spirit furnace, it had no opportunity to come out. Although other people did not know what was happening inside, Yang Chen understood it very clearly. Everyone knew that this was not something which would take a small amount of time, and everyone had enough patience, so they were all slowly waiting for Yang Chen. What Yang Chen had to do currently was to absorb the spirit power of the Zoysia's constituent spirit calmly after almost exhausting it slowly. After that, refining became the main part again. This was work which tested his patience and control ability vigorously. If one's patience was not enough and had to leave it halfway, or in case there was some problem with controlling the geocentric flame, if one was not careful, then it would immediately waste the heavenly material grade Zoysia. Luckily Yang Chen did not have to worry about the blue-green Zoysia escaping. This decreased worry was something which allowed him to concentrate all of his mind on controlling the flame to go through with the refining. As for patience, Yang Chen had never lacked in patience before, even in his previous life, he had experienced patiently enduring thousands and 10,000s of years. It took him 10 days, then Yang Chen sensed the spirit of the blue-green Zoysia resisting and struggling, but unfortunately for it, after entering the profound spirit furnace, it did not receive any nourishment to recover, and the more the spirit power it used up, the smaller its strength to resist became. According to Yang Chen's calculations, he should be able to refine the blue-green Zoysia completely within 2 months' time. During the refining process, Yang Chen could maintain his spirit power to be abundant at all times by absorbing the small amount of medicinal Kai which leaked to the edge. This was not something out of everyone's expectation. Everyone was aware of how precious the blue-green Zoysia is. Everyone was looking at him with an envious gaze because he was able to be nourished by the Zoysia Kai layer, as all of them knew that the earlier a person could be influenced by a treasured object like this, the more advantageous it would be for him at the later stages. Two more months passed within a flash, and under the continuous and unending torment of the geocentric flame, the top-grade blue-green Zoysia finally stopped struggling and didn't even tremble in the slightest, calmly lying down within the profound spirit furnace, motionlessly. An immense amount of spirit power directly rushed out of the furnace and entered Yang Chen's body. The fleshly body, which had been nourished by the blood of countless immortals, once again began to show some slight changes. His blood started surging as if he had gained some kind of mysterious ability, and he had a feeling as if he was full of life force. It felt as if, as long as an attack did not kill him immediately, his body would have the ability to recover to the peak. Although this was entirely based on his instincts and was never put to the test, Yang Chen was sure he had this kind of vitality. It seemed as if he had also absorbed the resistance ability of the Zoysia while refining. No wonder that Lianyun did not want to allow Yang Chen to refine and purify the herb. He was probably aware that the refining of these herbs could allow him to gain such great benefits. Yang Chen did not have a lot of experience in pill concocting in his previous life, so he was not very familiar with top-grade herbs like the Zoysia and believed that they were only capable of providing some spirit power to break through. Only now did he realize that they also had such huge benefits. The spirit power entering his body began to improve Yang Chen's spirit power frantically. After being refined by the profound spirit furnace for these few months, there seemed to be hardly any impurity within the spiritual influence, and the spirit power of yin and yang of all 5 phases were spurred to start circulating frantically. Even though Yang Chen had used the reverse yin and yang 5 phases secrets to refine this spirit power, it was still an unending stream of spirit power and would burst into his body as before. The spirit power accumulated within the Zoysia was being released little by little, and just the first part of refining the constituent spirit was already sufficient to allow Yang Chen to get lifelong benefits. Yang Chen had nursed his body for a long time while sitting down in meditation in order to rush towards the foundation stage, and now the time for the sprint had come. Using this immense spirit power, Yang Chen's own spirit power began to increase frantically, and at the same time it also began to slowly flow outside and vaguely communicate with the spirit power in the outside world. The dense spiritual influence within the villa began to merge with the spirit power in Yang Chen's body and gradually began to form into one. In front of the 4 Yuning experts and the 1 Dacheng expert, light began to emerge from Yang Chen's body, and the spiritual influence within the villa began to converge there, connecting the energies of heaven and earth. Elder Wu was startled and immediately wrinkled his brows. Building a foundation at this time? Yang Chen reaching foundation was a good deed which Elder Wu would be glad to see it happening, but Elder Wu was afraid that, because he was suddenly connecting the energies of heaven and earth, he would be distracted. Even a little bit of carelessness at the time of refining the blue-green Zoysia could lead to failure. Other ingredients had many batches in reserve, but there was only one blue-green Zoysia. This time Elder Wu began to regret that Yang Chen was going to reach the foundation stage. He hadn't anticipated that Yang Chen would make a breakthrough at such a time. Unfortunately, he did not know, but those pill-concocting experts should have realized it clearly. Why didn't they warn him? Thinking this, Elder Wu looked resentfully at those 3, as if the failure in refining this time would be the responsibility of those 3. In reality, even Zhu Peng, He Lianyun and Deng Yi were astonished. Although they clearly knew that refining the Zoysia had immense benefits, they also hadn't expected that Yang Chen would be able to make a breakthrough during the process of refining. By the time they became aware of this, everything was already too late. During this time, they also didn't know what to do and could only closely observe Yang Chen using their spiritual awareness, fearing that he would cause an accident over there. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth began to frantically rush towards Yang Chen. He had already anticipated this long ago. He relaxed his control and allowed the spirit power of heaven and earth to enter within his body, but his hands hadn't relaxed in the slightest. His control over that thread of flame hadn't loosened, and the stably burning Zoysia didn't fluctuate in the slightest. This kind of performance slightly lessened the worries of the people in the surroundings, although their spiritual awareness could not examine what kind of change was occurring within the profound spirit furnace, but the hands controlling the spirit power hadn't changed in the slightest bit. This clearly alleviated many of their worries. Elder Wu was especially glad. Even at this time Yang Chen was still making an all-out effort to continue the refining process of the blue-green Zoysia, in spite of being surprised by the breakthrough. He was indeed both scared and happy. Ordinary cultivators would certainly cause fluctuations in those threads of flame if there was such a sudden change in their body, but there was not even the slightest change in Yang Chen's control over the profound spirit furnace. Even Elder Wu reached the conclusion that he himself would not be able to show such tenaciousness under such circumstances. The top-grade blue-green Zoysia, together with the thick spiritual influence within the villa, made sure that Yang Chen didn't have the slightest amount of obstructions in reaching the foundation stage. His spiritual awareness and spirit power were both frantically increasing during this process. The small changes that had accumulated for a long time had finally given rise to completely fundamental changes. An enormous amount of spirit power began to overflow from his meridians and entered his body, beginning to nourish all of his internal organs. The medicinal power and spirit power thoroughly cleansed Yang Chen's body, and bit by bit, the body, which was originally nourished by the blood essence of tens of thousands of immortals, began to slowly release some black-colored impurities. Soon a stinking smell appeared in the whole area. This was a fundamental change which everyone had to go through at the time of reaching the foundation stage. All of the impurities within the body were discharged to make it more tranquil. But at this moment, nobody had any means to wash the impurities of Yang Chen's body for the fear of disturbing him and ruining the entire process of refining and purifying, so they had to continue to bear this horrible smell for a good moment. They did not dare to relax their attentive watch, fearing that Yang Chen would be disturbed by this and lose control. At the time when everyone was tensed, Yang Chen did something which made the souls of everyone there leave their bodies. He surprisingly took away one hand from the profound spirit furnace and transformed his water-attributed spirit power to a clear thread, moving over his body like a serpent. Within a short moment it washed away all of the impurities discharged by his body, and soon afterwards he fished out a jade bottle and collected all of the impurities in it, which confused the surrounding people even more. Nevertheless, the most astonishing thing was that, even though Yang Chen had performed so many tasks with one hand, his other hand was steady and unswerving from the beginning to the end and hadn't swayed in the least. The output spirit power was also absolutely stable. At this moment it seemed as if Yang Chen had suddenly turned into two people. Other people may not know, but Yang Chen was very clear about his body. After reaching the foundation stage, his spiritual awareness had a huge increase, directly rushing to the peak of the Jidan stage. The benefits of cultivating the three purity secrets could be seen very clearly at this moment. Although Yang Chen still hadn't reached the level where he could form another primordial spirit, dividing his mind to do two different tasks was not an issue for him. One side was controlling the refining of the blue-green zoysia within the profound spirit furnace, while the other was controlling the spirit power which was washing his body, as if it was very normal. All of these people were so scared that cold beads of sweats threatened to drop from their faces. They all had a whole new level of respect for Yang Chen, but everyone was confused about Yang Chen collecting all of the impurities and storing them in a jade bottle. But this was clearly not the time to ask questions, and they could only watch Yang Chen accomplish everything while enjoying the spirit power, cleaning his body with one hand and controlling the profound spirit furnace to continue refining on with the other. Even if the constituent spirit of the blue-green zoysia had disappeared, the refining still required grinding labor. Fortunately, Yang Chen had already entered the foundation stage, so his spirit power and spiritual awareness had risen tremendously. In addition to that, the medicinal power dispelled from the zoysia would ensure that there would be sufficient amounts of spirit power, so there was no reason to be worried about the refining. The fire-attributed spirit power had finally broken through the Chi layer bottleneck and had entered the foundation stage. The spirit power of the other attributes had also risen by one layer under the nourishment of the blue-green zoysia, rising from the 8th Chi layer to the 9th Chi layer. Because of reaching the foundation stage, the spirit power from outside also began to enter his body and provided Yang Chen with the opportunity to consolidate his current realm. This process of refining on one side and going through great changes on the other continued for 10 days. During this time, the blue-green zoysia was slowly refined. First, the whole zoysia had turned dark red and began to soften, and then it gradually changed into a liquid. The impurities within the medicinal liquid were released at the edge of the pill, concocting furnace under his precise control of the flame, leaving behind only the most purified medicinal liquid. After this medicinal liquid was completely spread out, Yang Chen scorched the whole medicinal liquid with his controlled flame and cleared up all of the impurities within it completely. Only after waiting until the medicinal efficacy reached the extreme limit which Yang Chen could reach, did he yawn. The blue-green zoysia has been refined, immediately prepare the pill furnace. The zoysia had to be used immediately after refining, so everyone had already made their preparations. Hearing Yang Chen's words, Deng Yi immediately placed her pill concocting furnace in front of Yang Chen. This pill concocting furnace was many grades higher than Yang Chen's profound spirit furnace. This magic tool grade pill furnace released a wave of purple-colored radiance, as if it was a great emperor standing in front of a commoner. Yang Chen controlled the medicinal liquid of the blue-green zoysia with all of his strength, and in an instant he opened the furnace and shifted it to Deng Yi's furnace. Deng Yi was prepared a long time ago, and once the medicinal liquid entered the pill concocting furnace, she immediately took control and transferred the liquid to the bottom of the pill concocting furnace. Only after seeing that everything was complete did Yang Chen open his mouth and say to Elder Wu. Elder Wu, fortunately I did not fail. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 78. First get attached before falling out. Yang Chen relaxed and took a breath, and at the same time, Elder Wu did the same. Now that the top-grade zoysia had been refined, the success rate of refining in the later stages would once again be somewhat increased. When Yang Chen was refining the blue-green zoysia, the others were also not sitting by idly and were discussing about the originally proposed plan for fusing all of the ingredients and had finally settled all of the issues. They had also referred to Yang Chen's technique of merging fire and water, and although they were not able to find out the core of the technique, it had offered them a thought to resolve the problem. Deng Yihad was the highest grade pill concocting master among the three, so she automatically became the leader and began to implement the plan. The following refining continued for at least 1 year. Just fusing a few high-grade elixirs had taken them such a long time, but actually completing it within 1 year was already an extraordinary arrangement. Zhu Peng and He Lianyun were also not lazing around, apart from providing all kinds of assistance to Deng Yi, they were also taking care of the constituent spirit of the demonic beast. The demonic beast had the shape of a flood dragon, its torso was similar to a huge poisonous python, and it had already cultivated for 1,000 years, its figure was exceptionally close to a flood dragon, and even had 2 horns sticking out of its head, it needed only 1 more step to ascend. Even if Elder Wu was able to capture a unique demonic beast, it had to be one that was compatible with Fan Shan. This demonic beast was only captured after strenuous efforts. Elder Wu was still recuperating from an injury he received during this capture. Apart from the blue-green zoysia, the most important ingredient of the heaven-seizing pill was the constituent spirit of this demonic beast. It would act as the heaven-seizing pill spirit, which even the constituent spirit of the zoysia could not compete with. To deal with this poisonous flood dragon, it required Elder Wu to be compatible with Zhu Peng and He Lianyun. Naturally, Fan Shan was also an absolutely indispensable person, as he needed to control this poisonous flood dragon at the crucial point. Will you first force the flood dragon to consume all of the spirit power and afterwards extract the constituent spirit? This time Yang Chen could only be classified as a spectator, as he had no relation with this matter, but after hearing this method, he still couldn't help but raise the question. This kind of method, wouldn't it make the poisonous flood dragon's constituent spirit weak and powerless? Ignorant youngster, stop trying to sound smart and don't talk without thinking. Li Lianyun was not even 1 bit courteous towards him and directly mocked Yang Chen's questioning. Could it be that you really believe that using some minor tricks of controlling the fire, you could refine the heaven-seizing pill? Or is it that we 3 pill concocting masters are worse than you, a mere foundation stage youngster? The method to deal with the constituent spirit was agreed upon after the discussion between the 3 pill concocting masters. After all, the poisonous flood dragon was already a super demonic beast which was approaching its ascension, its constituent spirit was not something which these unique stage pill concocting masters could control. This powerful constituent spirit was not at all equal to the constituent spirit of the heavenly ingredients, like the top-grade blue-green zoysia, which did not possess the ability to attack and only required some very hard labor to refine, which could even be taken care of by a Kai-layer disciple, such as Yang Chen. The constituent spirit of the poisonous flood dragon was at least 1 realm higher than Deng Yi. If the control was not perfect, not only would the refining fail, but the pill concocting master might still have to suffer from the backlash. The lightest result would be getting some serious injuries, a serious one could be losing one's life, so it indeed was incomparably dangerous. For the successful refining of the heaven-seizing pill, the constituent spirit of the demonic beast was not allowed to create any problems, so they would be seeping away the spirit power until it became weak enough to be controlled. Moreover, the degree of weakness had to be grasped properly, it couldn't be too powerful, and at the same time it also couldn't be too weak, otherwise it would not be sufficiently powerful. Since the name is heaven-seizing pill, with the 2 words heaven-seizing, is this something that can be accomplished by a weak constituent spirit? But Yang Chen did not pay the slightest attention to He Lianyun's mockery, instead he stated his own reasoning, while wrinkling his brows. Although Junior cannot make the heaven-seizing pill, Junior still has some knowledge about it. If it is not powerful enough, who will be ready to take the blame? Although Yang Chen's words contained some speculation, they were still somewhat reasonable. Even during the previous discussion, Elder Wu had also raised this concern. But thinking about the cultivation of the pill concocting masters and the possibility of refining and secondly obtaining the completely intact constituent spirit of this vicious poison dragon was not possible without harming it. After discussing this with Fan Shan and the other 3 pill concocting masters, they had unanimously agreed to this conclusion. This way to control it was the easiest, most famous, and also had highest chance of success. In his previous life, Yang Chen had only heard about the difficulties in refining the heaven-seizing pill and hadn't refined it personally. In addition to that, Yang Chen's current cultivation could be said to be insignificant when compared to everyone else, so his words weren't very persuasive. He had already successfully completed his job of purifying the blue-green zoysia, and now, whether the refining of the heaven-seizing failed or succeeded, had no connection with him. The reason why Yang Chen had stayed behind was precisely to obtain his reward of the real sun fire and increase his knowledge. At this moment, Yang Chen was trying to convince everyone else who were already determined on that plan, which was appearing to be impossible. But Yang Chen felt in his subconscious mind that this kind of refining was not appropriate. If the heaven-seizing pill could even be refined with a weaker constituent spirit of a demonic beast, wouldn't it be a joke? Although at this moment, the successor failure of the refining did not have any relation with Yang Chen, but he did not want to helplessly stare, as this kind of opportunity was passing through his hands. If the heaven-seizing pill was successfully refined, then he would obtain an unprecedented reputation and also receive the invisible protection of many experts, so if he missed this, his losses would never make up for the gains. Since he could say nothing to make everyone change their method, Yang Chen was smart enough to understand that there was no need for him to speak anymore. In He Lianyun's eyes, Yang Chen's silence meant that he had accepted his defeat since he couldn't convince them with his drivel. So He Lianyun started making preposterous remarks immediately after taking out the furnace. Trying to display your measly skills before the experts here, what a disgrace. He Lianyun immediately pelted ridiculing words at him and continued to berate him without any restraint. Ignorant youngster, get lost. You must properly safeguard my real sun fire so that it does not get broken by anything. But Yang Chen wasn't enraged and instead replied this with a laugh. These words immediately turned the complexion of He Lianyun ashen, his whole body trembled and he turned speechless. He Lianyun had always wanted to talk with Yang Chen regarding this matter and see if he could substitute a real sun fire for something else, but he never dared to, for the fear of losing face. Just a moment ago when those words exited from his mouth, the only result of this meaningless bit of showing off was that it had caused an even deeper misunderstanding, but not the least bit of benefit for himself. Yang Chen's counterattack had given a shock to He Lianyun, following which he could not even concentrate on doing his work. Yang Chen no longer paid any attention to him and started to think in his mind about how he could decrease the influence of that method so that he could increase the success rate of the heaven-seizing pill. After much deliberation, it seemed that only one method could help him. Only, that sort of method required many ingredients on one hand, and on the other, it also required some more refining to be done. He did not know where Elder Wu had captured this flood dragon, neither did he care about it, nor was he going to take the initiative to inquire about it, but the one thing he was concerned about was how toxic this flood dragon was, and also how formidable was his constituent spirit was. This concerned the extent of how effective the method would be, so he could not be careless about this. Mentioning it was also somewhat troublesome, this kind of flood dragon, although its constituent spirit was needed at the time of refining, but the constituent spirit's nature could have an instinct to use poison, and if this kind of heaven-seizing pill was refined, then after taking it, maybe it would produce an intoxicating sensation within the subconscious of the user. Which would require him to waste some of his cultivation to resist. Yang Chen wanted to add a little bit of a detoxifying ability at the final stage. Of course he had no need to use any detoxifying medication, instead he could use the flood dragon's constituent spirit to produce the effect of restraining its toxicity, and then he could control the cultivation which would be wasted to resist the toxicity after taking the pill. Additionally, when the constituent spirit of the flood dragon was extracted, it would be utterly weak under these circumstances, even if it successfully blended with the elixir and formed a pill spirit, the pill spirit would instinctively be weak. At that time the weakness of the pill spirit would lead to a greatly decreased medicinal efficacy. Seizing the heavens, this was not something which an extremely weak, almost dead, pill spirit could accomplish. Elder Wu, for the time being I don't have anything to do, I want to try to make some elixirs by myself, is it possible to grant me permission? Yang Chen directly turned to Elder Wu and raised his request. Elder Wu was worried that Yang Chen would cause trouble for He Lianyun, so hearing Yang Chen take the initiative to go, he hurriedly replied. No problem, you intend to refine at some other place, right? Any kind of ingredient you need, instruct those servants outside to provide them to you, and they will complete all of the other preparations for you. Elder Wu consented quite magnanimously, but he also questioned him at the same time. If Yang Chen wanted to prepare his own elixirs, it would be best for him to go to another place, he must not disturb the refining here. As for what kind of elixirs Yang Chen wanted to prepare, Elder Wu did not care about it, he was even glad that Yang Chen would not be here to provoke He Lianyun and affect the refining. As for the ingredients he required, Yang Chen, who had just reached foundation stage, how many high-grade materials would he possibly be able to refine? Yang Chen gave him a meaningful glance and immediately smiled. I will go outside to refine, but I need Elder Wu to provide me with a particular ingredient. Yang Chen was eager to go outside to refine, as the thing refined by him could not be allowed to be seen by these people, especially He Lianyan. What ingredient? Elder Wu asked, confused. If he needed to ask him to provide the ingredient, it naturally had to be quite a high-level ingredient. I need some fine powder, shaved from the demonic dan of this flood dragon. Yang Chen asked, pointing towards the bestial pouch on Fan Shan's waist and smiled. The flood dragon was being kept in the bestial pouch from the day it had been captured, furthermore it would receive its final destiny very soon. Yang Chen was not very greedy, obtaining some powder from the demonic dan. This request was as simple as lifting a finger for Elder Wu. He was merely baffled as to why Yang Chen required this kind of thing. Because of Yang Chen's earlier performance, even if he had asked for the demonic dan itself, maybe Elder Wu would not have refused it. But this was not the time to bestow such huge rewards, and Yang Chen had also not asked for much so as to not give rise to the resentment of other people. Just as he expected, He Lianyan looked at him with a mocking gaze, as if finding it funny that Yang Chen was overestimating his capabilities. Try to refine an elixir by using powder of the dan. If a disciple who had barely reached the foundation stage could refine an elixir using the dan of such a demonic beast, then even a mortal could start concocting pills. Despite sneering at him, it didn't look like He Lianyan wanted to stop him, instead he was waiting for Yang Chen to humiliate himself. Upon seeing this, Elder Wu only nodded slightly, but didn't say anything. The flood dragon had been captured a long time ago and had used all kinds of tricks to survive, but under the combined suppression of Elder Wu and Fan Shan, it was simply unable to resist. In the restrictive spell formation laid by Elder Wu, it had recently gained some freedom and immediately manipulated its inner dan to attack that major enemy who held its life and death in his hands. But Elder Wu calmly controlled his flying sword, regardless of how the big green demonic dan attacked. After the sword flashed for several times, Fan Shan controlled the bestial pouch to retrieve the flood dragon. Holding the flying sword in his hands, he walked in front of Yang Chen and asked, "Is this enough?" A small amount of green grains could be seen flickering on the flying sword. That was the powder he shaved from the inner dan just a moment ago, extremely fresh. Yang Chen carefully collected that fine powder in his jade bottle and nodded. "It's enough." Elder Wu retrieved his flying sword without saying anything, but gratefulness was visible within his eyes. Although Yang Chen was being targeted and insulted from the beginning, yet he didn't create any trouble for Elder Wu, while his work was also extremely good, which satisfied Elder Wu greatly. A person who knows when to advance and when to retreat, this was Elder Wu's assessment of Yang Chen. Inside that manor, some distance not far from the place where the refining was taking place, Yang Chen looked for a room where he could concoct pills. He looked for a servant and instructed him about all of the materials he needed and asked him to prepare them. Naturally some unneeded materials were also mixed in as he did not want people to know what he was refining. Elder Wu had already instructed the servants to fulfill all requirements of Yang Chen. Yang Chen did not demand excessively high-grade ingredients, and moreover, in order to refine the heaven-seizing pill, Elder Wu had already collected as many top-grade spirit medicines as he could. These slightly lower-grade ingredients were all placed into Yang Chen's room within one day. The Yuning pill concocting masters had already begun to remove the spirit power of the flood dragon within the bestial pouch. Since there were no means of replenishing the spirit power, the demonic beast began to weaken slowly. Whenever Yang Chen looked over there and heard the roaring of the demonic beast from time to time, he could not help but shake his head and take a long sigh, then soon afterwards he began to sort out the ingredients. Although he had already reached the foundation stage, at this place Yang Chen did not want to reveal his cultivation techniques. Therefore, although he could once again refine his magic weapon, he forced himself to endure it and began to use the profound spirit furnace to refine all sorts of ingredients as preparation for his own refining. In a flash, a few months had passed by and the medicinal liquid of the blue-green zoysia had already mixed with 40 different types of foundation elixirs, but 20 more still remained. The refining was getting more and more difficult. Deng Yi could already not persist by herself, so Zhu Peng and He Lianyan had also entered the battle and, controlling the medicinal liquid inside of the pill concocting furnace, they began to refine. Every time one person changed places with another, he was extremely exhausted and drained. After stopping the work, he would immediately use pills to recover the lost spirit power, not daring to delay in the slightest. On Yang Chen's side, all of the preparations were done. He Lianyan and the others had no time to pay any attention to him, so after putting up a spell formation as a warning, Yang Chen used the powder from the inner dan of the poisonous flood dragon and carefully threw it into the profound spirit furnace. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 79 Failed Refining. Although he only had a little bit of powder from the inner dan of the poisonous flood dragon, it was still an extremely high-grade ingredient, so the refining would still take 1 day. Fortunately, it wasn't as big of a problem as the constituent spirit and was much easier to handle. But before he could formally begin the refining, he still had to think of a method to neutralize the inner dan's toxicity. The profound spirit furnace had directly risen by 1 grade under the influence of the spirit power and medicinal power from refining the blue-green zoysia and still had the aura of a treasure as before and had already mixed with spiritual influence. The entire profound spirit furnace was in the process of becoming a middle-grade magic weapon from a low-grade magic weapon. Yang Chen was convinced that after few layers of refining, it would become an amazing middle-grade magic tool. After reaching the foundation stage, compared with the Kai stage, some high-quality changes had appeared in his spirit power and spiritual awareness, not to mention other things. Just the fact that he could now connect the spiritual influence between the earth and the heaven immediately allowed him to maintain an even more formidable strength, regardless of whether he was cultivating or fighting. Pill concocting was the same. Previously the elixirs he was incapable of refining had suddenly gotten a chance to be refined successfully. The constituent spirit of the poisonous flood dragon would probably be very weak, unable to support the requirements of the heaven-seizing pill, so Yang Chen wanted to make the pill spirit more powerful. During the process of refining, he would have to fuse more than 10 foundation stage elixirs of all attributes. Because of the possibility that the refining may fail, Yang Chen still wanted to refine some other things, in which the yin and yang of the 5 phases were blended properly. In short, he wanted to be prepared for everything. Both sides were painstakingly refining. Relatively speaking, Yang Chen's side was simple, so the first step was completed very quickly. Having these things ready, Yang Chen now had some certainty about the success in the last stage of the heaven-seizing pill. After all, compared with other people, Yang Chen had a much greater understanding of the heaven-seizing pill. Though he may not have eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. Even if it was Elder Wu, who had the highest cultivation among them, he would also not have Yang Chen's knowledge and experience. Although Yang Chen did not know the final refining method for the heaven-seizing pill, if he had a cultivation similar to Elder Wu, then he could have accomplished the refining forcefully without any problems. Currently his biggest weakness was his cultivation, so he had no other choice but to allow others to refine the pill in advance, and he would think of some method to remedy it afterwards. The refining of the heaven-seizing pill had entered its final stages. All of the base elixirs had already been absorbed into the blue-green zoysia. Now the blue-green zoysia in itself was an ingredient that contained both yin and yang of all 5 phases by means of a mixture of all the base elixirs. As long as the method of refining was correct, there would not be a problem. At the moment it was apparent that these 3 people were the real deal as, until now, everything had been completed without a hitch. These 3 pill concocting masters no longer needed to take turns to control the pill concocting furnace. Instead all 3 of them were conducting the refining together under the lead of Deng Yi, while the other 2 were supporting her. The fusion with the medicinal liquid still required several days to be completed, and after that would be the time for adding the pill spirit. That would still be the most crucial time, whether or not the pill spirit would fuse successfully. This would directly determine whether the pill could successfully be refined or not. The constituent spirit had already been prepared properly. The poisonous flood dragon was preserved inside of Fan Shan's bestial pouch at its last breath, after suffering from constant torment by Fan Shan and Elder Wu. They were only waiting for the time when its constituent spirit would be required so they could extract it while the flood dragon was still alive. Yang Chen had also arrived at the scene of refining by now and was attentively watching the 3 people doing their work as if he wanted to learn something from the refining method of these people. At this time, even He Lianyun, who usually complained about Yang Chen, didn't have any extra energy to pay attention to him. All of the 3 high-grade pill concocting masters were single-mindedly devoted to controlling the furnace and didn't dare to get distracted for a single moment. The purple-colored pill furnace had currently already turned into a huge monster, occupying a radius of several meters. This pill concocting furnace that had been refined by high-level experts was crazily releasing steam at the moment. People with a low cultivation base could even not approach it. Fortunately, Yang Chen was a fire-attributed cultivator and he moreover also possessed the geocentric flame, so this was still not much of a problem for him. These 3 pill concocting masters were sitting in 3 different directions, as if they were the 3 legs of the pill furnace. Each one of them was manipulating their unique flame, and they were incessantly refining the medicinal liquid within the pill furnace. Since the pill furnace was still covered, Yang Chen could not know about the situation inside of it, and so he was observing those 3 people very carefully, while also using his spiritual awareness threads to probe, waiting for the final moment. The intensity of the flame inside of the furnace was very steady under the control of these 3 people, but it was inclined towards increasing more and more. several tens of thousands caddies of ingredients were all mixed together to refine a very small pill inside of the pill concocting furnace. That was indeed a great skill. Although Elder Wu and Fan Shan weren't participating in the refining, they were sitting 5 steps away from the refining stage, ready at all times to take out the constituent spirit of the flood dragon. After the intensity of the flame in the pill furnace reached its peak after several days, the purple-colored pill furnace turned slightly white. Beads of sweat could be seen sparkling on the foreheads of Deng Yi, Zhu Peng and He Lianyan, but at this moment they didn't have the time to wipe it off. Both hands of each of them were pressed against the pill furnace, frantically strengthening the intensity of the flame. Constituent spirit. All of a sudden, Deng Yi shouted loudly, following which the lid of the pill furnace rose high into the air, revealing the situation inside of the pill furnace. Surrounded by 3 portions of fire, a ball of medicinal liquid, the size of human head, was repeatedly rolling between them, emitting a sweet scent. Just by sniffing this scent, Yang Chen felt as if his body was fluttering and ascending, his spirit power moving and rousing. Even the incomplete pill had such efficacy. The name of the heaven-seizing pill was indeed not in vain. Elder Wu and Fan Shan on the side didn't dare to be careless, and as if they were a bolt of lightning, they appeared on the side of the pill furnace in a flash. Fan Shan opened his bestial pouch and pulled out a flood dragon that was several tens of meters long. The enormous body occupied almost all of the vacant space at the refining site. The flood dragon was at its last breath, so after it came out, it still was motionless. Only by looking at its eyes one could see some traces of it still being alive. Elder Wu pressed one hand onto the head of the flood dragon and then placed a heavy punch on its head using the other hand. Bang! The huge head split open on the spot and a ball of feeble light flew out of the head. Elder Wu swiftly caught it in his hand and immediately threw it into the pill furnace. Fan Shan immediately collected the corpse into his pouch. Everyone stared at the pill furnace with a shining gaze. The white light directly fused with the ball of medicinal liquid and immediately afterwards the lid of the pill furnace was closed once again at lightning speed. Deng Yi, Zhu Peng and He Lianyan once again started the insane refining. This was the final step and also the most important one. If this step succeeded, then the heaven-seizing pill could be smoothly taken out of the furnace. If they made a mistake at this step, all of their previous efforts would be in vain. At this moment, the 3 pill concocting masters had exerted all of their strength, waiting for this final fight. Elder Wu, Yang Chen and Fan Shan did not need to do anything for the time being and were carefully waiting for the moment when the lid of the furnace would be opened on the side. This fusion continued for several days and several nights. During that time, the big round lump of medicinal liquid was incessantly struggling against the fusion with the weak constituent spirit of the flood dragon, and the sound of the medicinal liquid ramming the side of the pill concocting furnace was echoing on the outside. Beads of sweat continued to roll down from the faces of all 3 pill concocting masters, while Elder Wu was feeding them elixirs for recovering their spirit power every few hours, but the shaking of the medicinal liquid still didn't stop, and the sound of ramming against the pill concocting furnace continued to echo. All of the people at the scene were deeply worried, including both the people concocting the pill and the people sitting at the side. The most anxious one among them was Elder Wu. In order to refine the heaven-seizing pill, he had prepared for 100 years, from looking for the pill recipe to acquiring all kinds of pill ingredients. Very soon, he would know about the results, whether he would succeed or fail. This question even made Elder Wu lose the calm-headedness Dacheng stage experts usually displayed. Finally, the ramming sound became quieter. The time interval between the sound was also increasing more and more, as if the strength of the constituent spirit was becoming weaker and weaker, and finally it stopped completely. A trace of relaxation appeared on the faces of the 3 pill concocting masters. Elder Wu and Fan Shan also took a deep breath and let it out. A smile made its way on Elder Wu's face. It seems that they have almost succeeded. Not necessarily. Yang Chen's voice came through from the side. His one sentence made everyone wrinkle their brows. The 4 Yuaning and 1 Dacheng stage expert hadn't said anything, but this trifling youngster, who had barely reached the foundation stage, said these kinds of discouraging words. He was indeed an eyesore. If this kind of docile elixir was able to have the reputation of seizing the heavens, then seizing the heavens is really very simple. Under the resentful stares of all of these experts, Yang Chen wrinkled his brows and continued without any fear. Maybe the elixir still has some counterattack. Yang Chen had not said this with the purpose of explaining himself to get out of trouble. Instead, what he had heard about the heaven-seizing pill in the past pointed towards it not being such a simple matter. If they relaxed at this time, then not to mention failing at the last step, maybe they would not have any way to save it. Although these words were not pleasant to hear, everyone could understand what he meant, so all of them immediately became even more vigorous, not daring to relax in the slightest. The chance to put down their names in history was in front of them, nobody wanted to let it slip by due to carelessness. Pang. A huge sound came from inside of the pill furnace, and the huge pill concocting furnace shifted horizontally for several tens of meters due to the force of the knock. The fierce impact almost made the three pill concocting masters fall backwards. Fortunately, Yang Chen had warned them, so everyone was on guard. Although the power of the hit was enormous, it did not affect the refining of the pill concocting masters in the slightest. Their 6 hands were pressed against the pill concocting furnace the same as before, incessantly rousing the intensity of the flame. Elder Wu looked towards Yang Chen with a thankful expression and nodded before once again turning towards the pill concocting furnace. Apparently this impact had consumed all of the strength of the pill spirit as there was no more activity. The refining continued calmly for 1 day and 1 night. After sensing that the inside had reached sufficient a temperature, Deng Yi yelled. "Careful, I am going to congeal the pill." With one hand pressed against the furnace to control the heat, Deng Yi raised her other hand and made a few complex signs in succession to spur the medicinal liquid inside of the furnace and start congealing the pill. This was the ultimate step, as long as the pill was congealed and then collected, all of the work would be accomplished successfully. A look of expectation appeared on Elder Wu's face. No accident had appeared in the previous procedure, so just after this one step, he would immediately obtain a heaven-seizing pill. He couldn't express his excitement in words. Not only Elder Wu, even Deng Yi, Zhu Peng, He Lianyun and Fan Shan all had the same expectant expressions. The smile on everyone's face still hadn't completely appeared when suddenly Deng Yi's complexion changed. Immediately following, Zhu Peng and He Lianyun's expressions also had an enormous change. These 3 people knew the situation inside of the furnace clearly. The change in their expressions made the hearts of Elder Wu and Fan Shan grow cold. Could it be that refining had failed? But these 3 pill concocting masters hadn't said anything, so nobody really knew what was going on inside of the furnace. The only one who was calm was Yang Chen. This elixir was so weak, how could it claim the name of seizing heaven? Even if it was refined successfully, at most it would be stealing heaven, that's all. This had no relation with the word seizing, it would be a miracle if it had been successful. Deng Yi was desperately testing a few methods, but her expression was becoming more and more anxious. Zhu Peng and He Lianyun who were assisting her also tightly wrinkled their brows without saying anything. After Deng Yi had tried the final method, she disappointedly stopped and said to Zhu Peng and He Lianyun. "I am not able to congeal the pill, you both should try." These words explained the current situation inside of the furnace. Hearing this, Elder Wu's expression sank, but both of his eyes were looking hopefully towards Zhu Peng and He Lianyun, who were sitting on the side. At this moment, without caring for courtesy, Zhu Heng also extended his big hands and began to use his methods to congeal the Dan. Within a short moment, he had already used more than 10 methods, but in the end he stopped without saying anything, which clearly implied that his results were the same as Deng Yi, unable to congeal the Dan. The last person remaining, He Lianyun, did not believe in hearsay. His spirit was greatly roused, and he was using all that he had learnt in his entire life without any restraint. Even to Yang Chen, it was clear that his method to congeal and collect the pill was better than the other 2. Deng Yi and Zhu Peng had been unable to congeal the pill. As long as He Lianyun could grab this chance, he would amaze all of them. Just like that, Elder Wu would be. Not only that, the huge fame that he would gain by refining the heaven-seizing pill would put him above all other pill concocting masters in the mortal world, making him the #1 pill concocting master. At that time he could gain all of the fame and fortunes. Just thinking about what would happen afterwards, He Lianyun lost his concentration at this moment. Elder Wu was watching He Lianyun very attentively. The hopeful expression on his face was slowly turning into despair as He Lianyun's hand gestures became slow. Failure. As a Da Cheng stage expert, his bearing was more graceful than that of other people, and he didn't appear like a sore loser. Seeing the current situation, where the 3 pill concocting experts were still putting in their greatest effort, he sighed and admitted that this time's refining was a failure. After all, the pill recipe was not complete. "I don't blame you all, stay your hand." Elder Wu's words proclaimed the defeat of everyone's effort. The 3 pill concocting masters dejectedly let go of the furnace. The lid of the furnace automatically opened, revealing the situation inside. Except for a lump of a black thing, nothing else was there. Although it was still releasing a strong spirit power as before, they were all very clear that this were the dregs of an already failed concoction and not the heaven-seizing pill they were seeking. Looking at this black lump, a light flashed in Yang Chen's eyes. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 80 Strange things appear with the pill. It had to be said that the pill concocting of Deng Yi, Zhu Peng and He Lianyun was not bad, at least in their control of heat. They had already achieved the peak, evidenced by them refining these several tens of thousands of caddies of ingredients into a lump the size of a human head, without even a trace of burning. The reason why only this black-colored lump was left was because they had never been able to condense the pill from the start. Currently the black lump was still sweltering before everyone's eyes, but apart from Yang Chen, nobody gave it even a single glance. Everyone was immersed in their dejection because their meticulous efforts had gone in vain, and for some time nobody opened their mouth. The whole place was filled with a lifeless atmosphere. Yang Chen walked a few steps to the pill-concocting furnace, lowered his head and started examining the black-colored dregs delicately. This action immediately attracted everyone's attention and their gazes concentrated on him in a flash. What? Do you want to say the reason for why the refining has failed? Lianyun could not deal with Yang Chen as he had planned, so because his mood was pretty bad, he started mocking him. Does Great Master Yang have any advice? The other people were also in a bad mood. What Lianyun said resonated with everybody. Although nobody said anything, the gazes of 4 Yuning experts and a Dacheng stage cultivator, who was on the verge of ascending, all concentrating on someone, could make any cultivator in the mortal world tremble. But as if Yang Chen hadn't sensed this pressure, he unexpectedly extended his finger and stuck it into the black-colored dregs under everyone's eyes. Releasing his spiritual awareness, he began to sense the circumstances inside of it at close range. This action of Yang Chen made everyone look at each other in dismay. Nobody knew what he wanted to do, but everyone had the same thought. They did not believe that Yang Chen would be able to do anything to these dregs. He was a foundation stage youngster, not worthy of just talking about the heaven-seizing pill, not even if it was just the dregs of the heaven-seizing pill. It can still be saved. After sensing for a good moment, Yang Chen suddenly said this sentence, which endlessly stunned everyone. It could still be saved. What does this mean? Everyone's gazes converged on Yang Chen again, but this time they did not contain the same resentfulness as before, instead they were filled with astonishment. Shameless boasting. Lianyun immediately berated him in a loud voice. Who do you think you are? As soon as you got your chance, you immediately started talking big. Do you really believe you are Great Master Yang? Not only Lianyun, but even Deng Yi and Zhu Peng's faces turned gloomy after hearing Yang Chen's words. These 3 Yuning stage experts couldn't find a method, but this foundation stage youngster, what did he think he could possibly do? Yang Chen didn't pay any attention to Lianyun and fished out a jade bottle without saying anything. Opening the mouth of the bottle, he was about to dump the contents of the bottle onto the black-colored waste. What are you doing? Lianyun became even angrier and once again angrily shouted. Will you take the responsibility after destroying this? Destroying? Yang Chen stopped his hand and turned towards Lianyun, asking him with a queer expression. Senior He, could it be that you haven't used all of the methods you have? I invite you first, then. While speaking, he made an inviting gesture with his hand. What method could Lianyun have? If he had any, he would have already used it. He had already done all he could do, but he still wasn't able to congeal the pill. Now Yang Chen was asking him to do anything. Why would he humiliate himself again? If you all don't have any good method, then I will test my method. This time Yang Chen turned towards Elder Wu and very earnestly stated. Elder Wu, just now this junior was impulsive. Would it be possible to allow this junior to give it a try? What kind of objection would Elder Wu still have? At this moment, he refused to abandon hope. If luck was good, then maybe Yang Chen would be able to incite some result. Nodding his head, Elder Wu recalled that during the refining process, Yang Chen had already raised several objections. At that time nobody had paid any attention to him. Could it be that these problems were related to those objections? Elder Wu could not help but feel hopeful again. Did Yang Chen really find a method? He had already seen how Yang Chen had previously displayed almost perfect control over fire, which even Deng Yi, the highest level cultivator among the 3 pill concocting masters, would be unable to accomplish. Since Yang Chen had produced that kind of extraordinary result during the wager, perhaps he may be able to produce a similar miracle even in pill concoction. Yang Chen slightly shook his hand and scattered the fine powder in the jade bottle, directly letting it fall onto the black dregs. Oddly enough, once these dregs came in contact with the powder, they began to change color, and the black color slowly faded away, restoring the original blue-green color of the blue-green zoysia. This miraculous act made everyone, including Lianyun, forget about the dispute. Everyone couldn't take their eyes off Yang Chen's actions. Hope and expectations began to rise within their hearts again. In a moment, the profound spirit furnace appeared within one of Yang Chen's hands. Using the other hand as a ladle, he scooped up the blue-green dregs and put them into the profound spirit furnace. Use my pill concocting furnace, the results will be even better. Deng Yi immediately said this, upon seeing Yang Chen's actions. Her purple-colored pill concocting furnace was several grades higher than Yang Chen's furnace. After looking at the aura of Yang Chen's pill concocting furnace, she could not stop herself from saying this. Unfortunately, Junior is unable to use Senior's pill concocting furnace. Yang Chen would definitely not allow the refining of the heaven-seizing pill to be done in the furnace of someone else. The profound spirit furnace needed to slowly accumulate medicinal Kai, and refining the heaven-seizing pill, the highest grade pill in the mortal world, in this furnace would allow it to accumulate a large amount of medicinal Kai. Moreover, with Yang Chen's current cultivation, he was indeed not able to control a Yuning expert's magic tool. The powder that Yang Chen had added was refined from the inner dan of the poisonous flood dragon. It was especially for nourishing the constituent spirit of the poisonous flood dragon and to remove any side effects of its toxicity. After receiving this nourishment, the utterly weak pill spirit began to slowly recover within the profound spirit furnace. Sensing this change, Yang Chen took a deep breath. A weak pill spirit was the main cause for the failure last time, but if the pill spirit could be recovered, there was still a chance. Another factor in congealing the pill was the difficulty of combining the basic elixirs, which contained all of the 5 phases and their yin and yang in an equilibrium. The 3 pill concocting masters were all fire attributed, and although they were extremely familiar with all of the 5 phases, in that aspect they were inferior to Yang Chen, who cultivated the 5 phases together with their yin and yang, and moreover, had a full spirit root for all attributes. The mixture would contain some slight deviations from an equilibrium of the 5 phases. What Yang Chen needed to do at the moment was precisely to correct these slight deviations and nourish the pill spirit to the heaven-seizing realm afterwards. After that, congealing and collecting the pill would not have the current problem anymore. Only with the strength of the pill spirit at its peak and properly refined medicinal elixirs would it be suitable for the name of heaven-seizing pill. For balancing the yin and yang of the 5 phases, Yang Chen just needed to input his own spirit power into the furnace. The profound spirit furnace had been refined by Yang Chen from the beginning by using the 5 phases of yin and yang secrets, so it possessed all of the 5 phases all along. Just balancing the slight deviations did not take too long, the only problem now was the nourishing of the pill spirit. The entire jade bottle was filled with medicinal powder to nourish the pill spirit. Yang Chen divided it into 5 portions and added all of them into the furnace, one by one. All of the other people watching were curious about this medicinal powder, but nobody dared to ask anything. Yang Chen was someone who had barely reached the foundation stage. If asking him about the powder agitated him and caused a distraction, it would be disastrous. As for this question about the medicinal powder, it could be asked after this was over. After 5 portions, the pill spirit was not as weak as before, like it was at its dying breath, and began to show a trace of liveliness. This medicinal powder was refined from powder shaved from the inner dan of the poisonous flood dragon, so it had the same origin as the pill spirit. Naturally, it was an excellent medicine for nourishing it. Finally, in this situation, the pill spirit could start absorbing Yang Chen's spirit power to recover. But this pill spirit still required a large amount of spirit power for strengthening. To achieve this, Yang Chen directly called out to Fan Shan, who was waiting for the results. "Senior Fan, enter your spirit power within the furnace." Fan Shan immediately agreed and rushed over there, pressing both of his hands onto the wine jar-sized profound spirit furnace in front of Yang Chen and began to enter his spirit power carefully. Just after starting he was still very careful for the fear that, if he entered too much spirit power, it would ruin the pill concocting furnace, but he discovered very quickly that the profound spirit furnace was similar to a bottomless pit. Regardless of how much spirit power he put in, it would disappear without a trace. When he looked at Yang Chen with an inquiring gaze, Yang Chen only nodded, indicating him to be relieved. Only then did Fan Shan begin to enter his spirit power frantically into the furnace. "Seniors, the spirit power requirement is very large, so I would ask the seniors to take turns to enter spirit power." Fan Shan was already entering his spirit power, but Yang Chen also invited the other Yuning stage pill concocting masters. They had completed the refining only a few moments ago, and although it had failed, they were extremely exhausted. But Yang Chen's words reminded them to recover as soon as they could, so that they could also be used as laborers. "If you require to enter spirit power, let this old man here assume the responsibility." Upon seeing this, Elder Wu also hastily replied. In terms of spirit power, the strongest person there was of course this Zhanxian stage cultivator. Yang Chen had not asked this great expert for anything, but he had frantically pressed the other people, which made even Elder Wu unable to sit by idly. "Elder Wu should not be impatient, you must preserve your strength for a time of need. In the last stage we cannot do without you at your full strength." Yang Chen had already planned for this long ago and immediately asked Elder Wu to not speak anymore. The 3 pill concocting masters, including He Lianyun, had put down their objections at this moment. All of them anxiously wanted to know what Yang Chen was doing. Did the heaven-seizing pill really still have a chance? But at this moment nobody raised any objections and immediately swallowed pills to recover and started waiting for Yang Chen's instructions. The 4 Yuning stage experts were taking turns to enter their spirit power into the profound spirit furnace. By this time, everyone had already sensed the strong pressure emitted from inside of the profound spirit furnace. It was unexpectedly as if the constituent spirit of the poisonous flood dragon had completely recovered and was raging and rolling around within the profound spirit furnace. In reality, it was indeed like this, the almost recovered constituent spirit was madly struggling within the furnace. But it was only a constituent spirit without a body, and it was also bound by the medicinal liquid of the haven-seizing pill. Under Yang Chen's careful control, borrowing the unending stream of spirit power coming into the furnace, he began to fuse it with the medicinal liquid, little by little. The profound spirit furnace started shaking fiercely, making these people worried about whether or not this extremely low-leveled pill furnace would be able to endure the fierce shaking and not break. Fortunately, this kind of thing didn't happen, the shaking just became more and more intense, while violent roars began to echo in everyone's ears. The sound that was echoing through their ears stunned everyone. This roaring sound became louder and louder, until finally, it appeared to come out of everyone's hearts, forcing them to tremble incessantly. Everyone who came in contact with the pill furnace felt that this was a legendary dragon's roar without the slightest doubt. Refining a pill could unexpectedly give rise to dragon's roar. Even the Yuning stage pill concocting masters could not help but be overawed. Looking at Yang Chen, that youngster who had barely reached the foundation stage, controlling the pill concocting furnace without being affected by the roar in the least, the Yuning experts felt inferior. The roar was becoming more and more powerful, and unexpectedly the outline of a shape began to appear in the sky. Lumps of black clouds began to converge over everyone's heads, the whole sky had turned black within a moment. Thunder and lightning began to crackle above everyone's heads, the rumbling sound gave these people a sense of déjà vu. This is a tribulation cloud. Everyone there, apart from Yang Chen, was at least at the Yuning stage. When breaking through from the Jidan stage to the Yuning stage, they had survived the first tribulation, also known as lightning tribulation. This event unfolding before their eyes, how could it resemble the lightning tribulation which they had survived? What had called for the tribulation? The Yuning experts did not need to pass the calamity, let alone Elder Wu. Could it be that someone within this villa had broken through the bottleneck of the Jidan stage and was entering the Yuning stage? But Elder Wu hadn't shown the slightest indications of something like this, could it be Yang Chen? Impossible, Yang Chen had just reached the foundation stage, how could he call for the lightning calamity so quickly? But if it wasn't people, then could it be everyone's eyes snapped around and began to stare at the profound spirit furnace within Yang Chen's hand? The roar of the dragon was getting louder and louder. Could it be that the tribulation was for the pill inside? Pills also have to go through tribulations. Thinking about this, everyone was astonished. But together with their astonishment, they also had hopeful expressions. Yes, only this could claim to have the name of seizing heaven, at the time of refining successfully, even the heavens would drop tribulations. Only this kind of pill could be known as heaven-seizing pill. Those pills they had refined for half of their lifetimes were simply trash. Elder Wu was both alarmed and delighted when looking at all of this, he was overwhelmed by emotions. The process of refining the heaven-seizing pill was simply like crossing a turbulent sea. Initially he was full of confidence, but then all of his hopes were shattered. He hadn't anticipated so much twisting and turning, but finally it had become so much more powerful. Elder Wu didn't even know how he could express his emotions. All of this, everything, was done for him by Yang Chen. Currently Elder Wu was admiring his own decision of bringing Yang Chen with him at that time. He had such good foresight, suddenly thinking about inviting a person like Yang Chen, who was still at the Kai layer at that time, but he ended up only providing him with nice surprises. Be careful, Elder Wu. Yang Chen suddenly shouted to get his attention. It's time. Elder Wu, you must hold on to the heaven-seizing pill with all of your strength. After passing the tribulation, if you are not careful, this heaven-seizing pill will immediately escape, so you have to trap it properly. Success or failure, all depends on this one move. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.